and welcome to The Real Study with your hosts, Mr. Snidbits,
Welcome back to The Real Study,
Black Girl Marvel,
But I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
Mr. Marvelite,
not knowing anything about the film.
all the movie things,
And like I was locked in right away.
the pre-review with Super Gummy Guru,
Review.
and me, the Real Study movie voice guy. Let's go to the poster wall.
and welcome to The Real Study. My name is Mr. Snidbits, and always with me is Black Girl Marvel, and we've got all the movie things back with us this evening. No Mr. Marvelite tonight. We have best wishes. If you know Mr. Marvelite, please put out good thoughts for him. He needs those right now. But we also have a special guest, and that is Josh Levesque, TikToker and horror extraordinaire. And we will be discussing all the horror movies with him, all the A24 horror movies with him, as you can see below: The Witch, Midsommar, and X. And of course, Everything Everywhere All at Once one of these days when they release it. And we'll talk about it. Let's move over
I've seen
to
it
the
twice
drive-in.
now.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so jelly. So jelly.
Yeah.
So,
So good.
good week. Everybody had a good week?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a real good
Yeah.
week.
Pretty
Good.
good.
Yeah.
I agree. It has been a good week.
My week's even better because Bry's here. So
Right?
Oh no,
Brian's
too
back.
bad.
I've missed him so much.
I
It
Yeah.
don't feel
No.
it don't feel the same without you. That's why.
Oh, no,
I
you're
agree.
sweet. No, thank you. Yeah, I missed you guys. It's been like I was trying to think about it. It's been like 6 weeks, I think.
It's been a while. You were sick,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
work,
sick,
and
and then
things happen.
travel,
And,
yeah, so-
So,
I was like, he
Gotta
doesn't
be-
like us anymore, you guys.
well, there was like
No.
a period of time where he wasn't even on TikTok because he was
Yeah.
so sick,
Yeah.
like he wasn't even posting.
Yep.
So, not to
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about you as if
that's
you weren't
true.
here, because
Right.
you are here.
Right.
We're just so used to talking about you when you're
No,
not
let's
here.
keep
Right.
talking about like he's not here. So let me tell you about Brian, right? Let me tell you.
Okay, so tonight we do have Josh Levesque on with us, and Josh
Hey.
is the way I know Josh is through these amazing skits that he does with all the iconic horror characters, and they are always interacting in fun and great ways. So, Josh, from my perspective, I got to know, how did you come up with that? What was the inspiration, and how do you keep writing for it?
So it's a funny story. My TikTok originally was just me recommending horror movies to people. I started TikTok with absolutely no ambition whatsoever. I was like, I'm just going to see what my niece is posting, keep an eye on family.
Mhm.
And then
Oh, funny.
pandemic happened, and I was like, let me come up with some fun stuff. And I posted one of me
Yeah.
like, it's me watching a horror movie, and I was just like laughing and having a good time. Then it was me opening a can of biscuits, and when the can popped open, I was like terrified, and I let out this huge shriek. And I was like, that's kind of clever. I wonder if that'll do well. And it hit like 500,000 views, and my
Whoa, yeah.
account blew up the first time. And I was like, oh, this is fun. I should keep posting. And so I
Yeah.
started doing more horror content. The sketches was not supposed to be a regular thing. I was looking at my t-shirt collection, and I was like, I don't have hardly any Friday the 13th shirts, and I need at least 3 because there's up to 3 Friday the 13th a year. And that's when the joke came in my head, where it was like, oh yeah, Michael Myers only kills people 1 night a year.
Yeah.
Jason only works up to 3 nights a year. Like, you guys aren't even like giving it their all.
Yeah.
And that I'm also a stand-up comedian. I write and perform stand-up comedy when I can. And
Oh,
so
wow. Good
the
for you.
writer in me started like
Yeah.
putting together a sketch, and I was like, that would be really funny, but I don't have the time or the costumes or anything to really pull that off. But it just like stuck in my head for another month after I had come up with it, and I was like, I have to see it. I have to see it happen. I have to see it made. So I bought the ghost face mask and the leather face mask. I think those are the only 2 that I didn't own. I still have the super cheap Michael Myers one that I got when I worked at Hot Topic.
Nice.
The Freddy one is even worse from when I worked at Hot Topic.
Yeah.
And the Jason one, the first Jason one I used was an actual signed replica from a convention. So it's got Kane Hodder's autograph on it if you watch the first couple episodes.
So my wife is
uh,
in the chat right now,
That's
losing
awesome.
her mind over hearing that. I'll just put that out there.
So I finally bought a new Jason mask, and I no longer wear the signed replica, but
Oh, gotcha.
I made the sketch just for fun because I wanted to see what the joke looked like in real time. Like, I was like, let me put it together and see. And then I edited it, and I was like, post it on TikTok, see what happens. And so many people in the comments were like, this needs to be a series. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I could make it a series. Like, what else could I write? Oh, I could do something about this. Oh, I could do it. I had like 4 new sketch ideas of what these guys would
Nice.
argue about pop up into my head, and I was like, all right, I guess it's a series now.
Yeah.
And I just started writing them. So yeah, I've got, I think, like 7 episodes. People keep asking for new characters, so I brought in Pinhead, and I
Nice.
brought in
Oh wow.
I asked for
Billy
character.
Jigsaw.
I asked him to
Which
bring
one
in
did you-
Sam from Trick or Treat.
Oh
That's
yeah.
he's on my wish list. I already have a sketch written to introduce him. I just don't have the mask because the mask is very expensive.
Yeah.
And you're a
So
little
that's-
tall.
Damn.
I am
Kidding,
a
of
little
course.
tall,
Kidding.
but I can also play. I do Chucky and I do Billy the Puppet on
Oh,
my
fun.
knees. I did record. I recorded the new one today. I recorded a lot of footage for the new one today and yesterday. And the best part is, like, every time I record, the last few ones that I've recorded, I've had the character enter the apartment for something. Like in the last one, Jason came home from Dave and Buster's with Billy the Puppet and walked through the front door. We've had Pennywise show up and be like, "Oh, hey guys, what's up?" And I'm always super nervous because I live in an apartment complex that's kind of like embedded, and you
Yeah,
can see
I-
my apartment from multiple locations.
Oh,
And I was
no.
like, someone to see Pennywise the clown
Yeah.
walk
Oh,
into my
God.
apartment and be like, what's going on over in that building? And it finally happened yesterday where I was a character, like, it's a new character that I'm introducing, like, creepily coming in from the balcony, and neighbor was walking their dog and just looked up and was like,
Oh god.
I was
They
like,
have to
"Hey,
know. In an era of TikTok,
fucking-
if people are doing weird things, standing in the middle of the street, like we're all
I mean,
making
dance in the
content.
middle of the street. Like,
Yeah, that was when I see people doing like choreographed dances at a theme park. That's one thing. If I see like
That's fair.
a serial
Yeah.
killer entering my neighbor's back door, I'm gonna be like, is this for TikTok? Do I just assume it's for
Right.
TikTok?
Or should I call the police for safety?
Good
Yeah,
point.
no, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
But no, it's a lot of fun, and any excuse to write, because I obviously with the pandemic I wasn't doing stand-up comedy nearly as often
Yeah,
because the
totally.
things closed, and I write full time, but I write for like a phone company doing web copy and emails and stuff, so it's not
Oh,
super
nice.
funny, like
Yeah, yeah,
exciting.
yeah.
So any excuse to write new scripts and do more fun stuff, do horror stuff, because that
That's
community on
awesome.
TikTok is super fun. So
Yeah.
guys, no,
Yeah, Horror
That's
Talk is a
something
great
I've-
group. Sorry, go.
Yeah, I
go,
was just
Brian.
gonna say, like, I've been really impressed with like the horror community on there. I haven't heard anything like, I mean, I'm sure there's, some toxic stuff here and there, but I haven't really heard much toxicity from the horror community.
Yeah,
really. It's
there's
fun.
you'll get like a gatekeeper every once in a while,
Yeah,
but there's been
right.
times because I don't remember the guy's name. I'm not calling anybody out, but somebody was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, if you think this is scary, then you don't know anything. Like, you got to watch
my
this
God.
movie. This movie's banned and impossible to find anywhere, and blah blah blah." And someone was like, "That's gatekeeping, man. Like,
Truly
Yeah.
subjective.
don't shame this kid for liking The Conjuring." And the guy who
Exactly
posted
right.
it posted a response video where he was like, "Yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry. That was like a dick move. I'm
Wow.
You
Oh,
found a
okay, so-
unicorn. Okay.
Dang, I
That's-
know. Wow.
Hey.
You got to tell me about those.
Excellent.
That's
Yeah,
finding
yeah.
unicorns is a big deal.
That's so cool.
So you got to tell me more about your stand-up. So how long have you been doing stand-up, and where do you do it?
I started doing stand up in Las Vegas when I lived there 12 years ago. So I used to live in Colorado, and I just got this wild dream where I was like, oh, I should just do stand up, because I was watching like Patton Oswalt DVDs, and I was like, I wish I could do this for a living. And I was like, what? I mean, I can. Other people are doing it. Why not
Yeah.
try?
Yeah.
And so I started writing stuff, and then I was going to do an open mic in Colorado, and it got canceled. And I was like, well, I'm moving to Vegas in a month. I'll just start there.
Oh man.
And so I just started doing open mics at like these terrible dive bars off strip, and it's the best place to cut your teeth, because like 90% of the places you're performing at are not comedy clubs. The people
Yeah.
that are there did not know comedy was happening tonight.
Yeah.
They thought maybe a
Not-
guy with a guitar, you know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so like you get up on stage and the host is like, all right, guys, who's ready for Maniac Mondays comedy night here at the Sports Bar and Grill? And you just see everyone at the bar go, oh no, like I just want to
Damn.
watch the game.
Yeah.
And they start turning off the TVs at the bar for the comedy show, and they're like,
Oh my
no.
god.
That
So
would frustrate
I
people.
mean,
yeah, so you have to like really get them, like rope them in, like have a good opener, and then it's so hard to tell different crowds in different places, because I was doing comedy at like arcade bars and then these random sports bars, and then I've done a couple of the clubs like on the strip. I've done the Stratosphere and stuff, and it's always a
Oh,
completely
nice.
different crowd. And so
Yeah.
if you're going up first, that's the hardest, because you have to like
yeah. You gotta
set the
set that
table,
tone. Yeah.
and get everything going. But
Mhm.
if I'm going up third or fourth, then I'm using the reactions from the audience to figure out what my set's going to be.
Yeah.
But I was doing comedy in Vegas several times a week until I moved to LA. I moved here about 8 years ago or 10 years ago. Yeah, I've been here
Wow.
for 10 years now, almost 10 years. I have no concept of time. These last few years have been rough.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I moved
universal
here.
to some degree.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah,
You
moved here in
don't say. Yeah.
2013, so almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years in
Wow.
February. And then so I started doing stand up locally, so like all over the valley, like North Hollywood. I've done a couple spots in like Santa Monica area and stuff like that. And then pandemic hit, so I've been writing, but I haven't been going up as often. I finally started going up a couple months ago. I did another spot over by Universal Studios at this dive bar that always puts me up whenever I
Nice.
want to jump on, which is nice. And then
Yeah.
I went back to Vegas to do a reunion show with a bunch of my buddies in Vegas
Nice.
about a month ago, and that was awesome. That went
Cool.
swimmingly. So it's every time I'm like, maybe I don't need to do stand up anymore. I can just focus on like my career and be a grown up. I get an opportunity to stand up and I try it, and I'm like, nah, this is too much fun.
Yeah,
Like, this
right.
is so
Got to do what you love, man. Got to do what you
Yeah.
love.
yeah.
That's awesome. Good for you, man. Stand-up's
Thank you.
not easy. I mean,
It's
like
not.
I know I have a few friends that have done it here, and I'm in Portland, Oregon,
Oh,
and
okay.
and we have a pretty good stand-up community here, but
Yeah.
it's pretty, it takes
It's brutal.
a lot of guts. Yeah, I mean, and I guess some people were doing some Zoom, trying to do like Zoom.
I did a
stand-up
couple of those.
stuff,
Yeah.
like,
Not as
It's
fun.
not.
No, it's like
It's not.
just
How do you
that
get
people-
audience reaction from Zoom?
yeah,
Exactly.
it's-
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard enough to pick up on you guys
You
here.
can,
You're like, you
but
know,
it's bad.
Yeah.
You can,
Yeah.
but it's really really bad.
but it
I
has to be
do
a small
stand-up
room.
too,
So yeah,
by the way.
yeah,
I
it's
do
gotta be
stand up
super fun.
in Michigan. So,
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
but I
Fellas
plan
stand-up.
on moving to California next year.
ASAP.
Welcome.
Oh yeah, this time next year I should be in California. Don't know where in
Awesome.
California, but I should be in California.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's get into some movie chat because that's why we're
Yeah.
here. And
Alright.
we have 3 movies to discuss, and all of them are A24 horror. A24, as you know, because I talk about it way too much, either on this show or on TikTok, is this big up and coming. They're basically becoming the cream of the crop as far as independent films, and whether it be horror or drama, they're really cutting through and getting an audience in a very cool way. And most people have seen an A24 film and didn't even know they did, and that's what I think
Oh,
is
yeah.
pretty cool
That's
about it.
what
Very true.
So the
I
first
worked on
movie,
an A24 film.
that's right,
I
that's right.
didn't-
So that's
Didn't know it until later.
but yeah, so the production company was part of it, but that wasn't they. You weren't like a
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like we had local production, like producers and stuff, and then A24 people kind of like came on later on to it. Yeah.
Nice.
And that's technically a thriller or even borderline horror.
Yeah, you could consider it a horror. Yeah. I mean,
So
it's
Green
pretty
Green
brutal.
Room, if you guys don't know, I gotta
Yeah.
throw that out there.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Josh, is
That's a
like,
good one.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, great. No, Green Room's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of
I was
tone-
almost in it 3 times. Like
Oh wow.
every
really?
I get changed, and then I was a key set PA on it, and like they would need an extra body for something, and I would get changed into some random wardrobe, and then they'd roll, and then eventually, like, I didn't make any of the edit though, so I'm not in it. But
So you're on the floor though.
Right.
you're on the cutting room floor technically.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
So there's
So
some shots.
Brian and some behind the scenes, like maybe
There we go. Yeah. Get the Blu-ray watching bonus features.
Yeah.
can always hope. Can always hope. So the first movie, I thought we'd go in chronological order of release, just because they've kind of, I think that matters to them, to me in some facet, just watching them grow. And so the first film would be The Witch. This is a Robert Eggers film, and this was a film that I'm just going to start off because the reason I picked this film is I saw it back when it was released, before I knew about A24 really, and I wasn't a parent. I wasn't as old as I am now, obviously, and I didn't like The Witch. Like, I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
I kept saying I would joke, and I know Lala likes this. I saw your review already. So I didn't like it, but it was, I think, because I felt like I'm not a colonial. I'm not religious. I don't have a family because at the time it was me and my wife, and that was it. So like obviously she's my family, and so I kept like listening through these things, and I'm like, yeah, this movie doesn't freak me out. This is kind of boring. But this time, I have very different views, and I'm going to get into those soon.
Yeah.
But my views on this film have wildly changed. So why don't we go to Josh, since you are the guest, and let's find out what you think of The Witch.
I would say ditto. I wasn't this crazy about it the first time I watched it. I actually haven't revisited it yet, and I keep intending to. But I saw this movie after it came out, after all the reviews, and after dozens of people told me it was one of the greatest horror films they'd ever seen. So I think that's what did it for me. Is I was like, okay, well, I found the Blu-ray for like $10 at Best Buy or something, and I was like, well, if it's the greatest horror movie ever made, I'm gonna want to own it.
Yeah.
So I picked it up. We took
Sight
it home
unseen.
and watched it. And I will say, like, they had me in the first 2 acts. It was beautifully shot, like the cinematography. I love a slow burn. I thought the acting was great. I thought there was some genuinely creepy moments. Like, it definitely had me wrapped up. It was just like the payoff at the end. And again, I need to revisit it because maybe I was just in a bad headspace, or it just been overhyped for me because I was ready to watch the greatest horror film ever made when I put this on.
You're like The
But when it
Exorcist too.
ended-
Oh yeah, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But when it ended, like the reveal or whatever, like the climax, and then it was credits, and I'm like, oh,
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
and then I felt, but I don't know, because I like his directorial style, but I also didn't see all the hype around The Lighthouse. Like, I watched The Lighthouse and I was like, this has some really great stuff in it, but it's not really for me. And now I'm worried because I haven't seen The Northman yet, but everyone's telling me The Northman is.
Oh man,
And
yeah.
I was
Or
like,
Robert Eggers.
I love The Northman. Yeah.
did you love it as much as The Witch and The Lighthouse?
No, it's probably my favorite of his
Oh.
3 for
Okay,
sure.
So I'll give The Northman a shot. I'll watch anything.
It's very different though than The Lighthouse and The Witch though. Like it's definitely there's some horror elements, I will say that in it,
Yeah.
but it's definitely going towards more like epic, Viking kind of like sweeping.
Okay. So yeah, like a tonal
bigger.
shift.
It feels like a bigger film.
but
for sure
every
than-
horror director, for the most part, they start in horror and then they branch. Like, it's a great
Yeah.
place to start.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we get so much wonderful talent out of horror. Lala, what did you think of The Witch?
I didn't like it at all.
Bam.
I didn't. I mean, okay,
Yeah.
if you follow me on Letterboxd,
Mhm.
I did like a little review about it, and you guys know I always watch these movies by runtime. So whoever has the shortest runtime, I'll watch them in that order. So type of thing. And this is the first movie because I think this movie is shorter than the other two. And I watched this movie. I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for this movie. Like, right, I had a nice nap. I woke up. I said, "Let's start these movies," and I cut this movie on. And I love speech, so I love like the early modern English, like the very Shakespeare-y to style, the look, stuff and stuff.
The way
Because
they
like I can
talk,
understand
yeah.
it. It's like I kind of do that talk sometimes. Like, I'll put like a couple words in just because I think it's funny and I think it's like we need to get back to those times. But I love that type of speech. I mean,
Yeah.
clothing was amazing. Beautiful cinematography, like Josh said. Like, it was great. Like, I would love
Yeah.
looking at it, seeing cutscenes. The way that the movie flowed was nice. I just didn't understand what was the purpose of this film. Like, I watched it and was like, what are we trying to say here? Because like, I could kind of understand, like, okay, this witch probably wanted this girl from the beginning. Maybe it's like disenfranchised women, and so like, they pushed her to. Because I was thinking about it, like, because it's like it's like pretty much like heaven and hell and evil and God and Satan and things like that. All that mixed into like one bag, and I was like, okay, well maybe that's how the devil gets these women to be witches, because they push them to their breaking point. And even in Christianity, like, the devil never like makes you do anything. He makes you think it's your idea, or he says some things to like knock you off your square. So it's like all you have to do is, now all I can do is just turn to him, because what else do I have? And that's pretty much what happened to Thomasina, or Thomasin, or is her name Thomasin, or something like that. Thomasin. That's pretty much what happened to her. Like, her whole family got turned against her. Like everything was her fault. Plus, she's like, I'm assuming she's like 16. She's becoming a woman. She has all these other hormones as well, and all this stuff. It's like, what else am I gonna do? Personally, I mean, I can see all those elements. I was just like, what is the film? Like, I was just very like, because it says the witch. So, are you saying that like anybody could be the witch? Is there a primary witch? Like, I was very much like, what are we talking about? And again, like like Josh said at the end, I was just like, so we floating, and that's it. We don't. I was like, we don't get no more. Like,
I want to hear Brian's take because I have so much to say about what you just said, Lala.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead.
What is your initial thought on The Witch?
So I saw this not too long ago, actually. I actually saw The Lighthouse before I saw this, and which I have to say I loved The Lighthouse. I was all in with that thing just from every aspect, like even the aspect ratio and everything. But with this film, so I was like going into this one like really excited because it was the same director and yeah, like this there's definitely like a lot of elements I love about it. I mean, the cinematography, of course, and like I guess the cinematographer has said like the majority of the film was shot with like natural light, which is like
That's impressive.
so challenging. Yeah. Because you're just chasing the sun all the time. But it looks like they had a lot of like overcast days, which helps with that. But yeah, and like I like a slow burn, every once in a while, and I was kind of ready. I was just like in the mood for that. Performances were great. But yeah, I will say that it's not my favorite of Eggers' 3 films that he's done. So for sure,
He's
but
no Deacons. I love it.
Blind Biggie said he's no Deacon.
no, but
That's funny.
but yeah, I think I was hoping for more, hoping I was going to like it more than I did. I will say like it was enjoyable enough for me. It wasn't like this like what a lot of critics were kind of saying, like what Josh had mentioned, like it's like the best horror film. People are just hyping it up for you too much probably. And so I was going in with some expectations as well, but I think I'm gonna say with all these films actually that we're reviewing, I think I'm gonna need to rewatch each of them to kind of appreciate them a little more. So
I agree with that sentiment with these films because there's complexities built into them and it's interwoven with even lore. And watching The Witch a second time, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give my rating right now to kind of show what a second watch did. It went from a 5 to a 9.
Oh, wow.
And I want to do, I'm even going to do a TikTok on, I've said this before and I say it to people all the time, rewatching films after a period of time, either after a huge life change or 10 years, that's kind of like the two benchmarks, will change the way you view a film.
Yeah.
Being a parent really changed the way I looked at this film because, holy crap. Also, my
father, life experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
My father hadn't passed when this movie came out and I watched it. My father's name is William, which is the father's name in this movie. So that had an impact on me. So I kind of related to Caleb a little bit. I even like remembered what it's like to get up mornings, dewy, it's cold, it's damp, like all of that you could feel in the movie, which I didn't get the first time around. But to answer Lala's question about what this movie is about, what I figured out is it's about the 7 deadly sins. All 7 members of the family represent one of the sins, the father being pride, and his pride goeth the fall of the family. They go to the forest because he couldn't deal with the church putting him in his place. And each one of them kind of embodies one of those sins, which I think is why the witch is able to find them, because the father commits the first sin, even though they're trying to repent every day, every moment. And then the next thing you know, the witch starts glomming onto each of their deadly sins that they keep running into. And we can, we could debate which one's which for the family, and there's some crossover. But I really sat down. I was like, there's literally 7 members. There's definitely some wrath going on here. There's some pride going on here. There's some greed, some even maybe not gluttony like food, but like the Mercy, the daughter, wouldn't shut up about singing. Like she would not stop singing even when they told her to, and so she was being gluttonous about her need to sing. In a sense, I mean, I'm stretching. But I still feel like it fits. And the more I thought about it in that context, the more I was like, holy crap, that witch has so much to eat from.
What about the baby?
So the baby would have been, and that was a good point. Samuel is the 7th family member and the first one to die. Spoilers.
I think the
If you're-
statute of limitations is up on
well,
spoilers.
we have an anti-spoilers thing, but we also have a spoilers tag on the show, so like people know when they're coming in, we're going to be totally talking
Yeah.
about the films. So we still, I don't know, it's my thing about spoilers. I don't know, but the baby, I think I came up with it. I wrote it down. You guys can go ahead and jump in and see.
I need to know. I mean, I don't know. The seven sins angle is great, but I mean, but again, this might be a movie which I would probably have to
still not
watch
gonna like it.
again. I don't know. I'm still kind of like, but it's like I've seen Seven Sins done in movies and television better than this. You know what I mean? Like if this was
Right.
a thing that they decided to do, like if Snitty is right, and they're like seven sins are, you know, each family member has one. This is what attracts the witch. This is what I just felt like there were maybe things like I don't like things being spelled out for me. I like to figure things out, and I think the fact that I can't really figure this film out like kind of pisses me off a little bit. And it's one of those things where it's like I just think like maybe a couple of lines, a couple of dialogue was missing to not just to add a little bit more to this world, because the world is great. Like the world is amazing actually, and I was like
Yeah.
I like world building. I like being in these spaces, and I feel like if two things would have been said about something, you know, like I would be like, because me personally, like again, I thought the wish would have been like maybe somebody in their family, somebody they didn't know was a witch, right? Like maybe Anya Taylor-Joy's character was the witch or something like that. But it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, but then they were like, but then we go to a cabin in the woods, very bravish, you know, with the witch in her hovel. Like I'm like, is she making bears out of like wood and things? And I'm just like, what? And it's just like I don't know. It was weird. I will say the acting was you know me. I like to perform and things like that. So the acting to me was amazing. Like Blind Biggie said, the little boy that played Caleb was aces, man.
Oh yeah.
Like he was
That kid
he was
nailed
great.
that role.
He was
I think
great. Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying though, as far as like figuring the movie out. 'Cause I think that's what when I compare it to other movies, because my favorite thing to do when I watch any horror movie, especially one that's like I hate the term elevated horror, but any of these that are supposed to be like a metaphor or an allegory on something, I'll watch it and then there's like a handful of writers that I will seek out their reviews or their breakdowns or anything like that, and then if I can go watch it again, I will. And if I had known, like I don't remember reading anything about the witch, but if I had known this about it, I would have been like, oh, I should look out for that next time, and I would have given it another shot.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, the fact that I was just like kind of enjoying the cinematography and the acting and all that, but still kind of just like what's going on with the story
Yeah.
did nothing for me. Whereas like another A24 film, Hereditary, I
Loved
read
it.
a lot of breakdowns, read a lot of reviews,
I loved
and
it.
there's so many things I didn't notice the first time I saw it,
Mhm.
but I still saw enough to figure it out and
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
taken
Yeah.
by it.
Right.
And I think that's the difference here. Like I do like to figure out at least some of the movie on my own, because if I'm
Yeah.
reading something
Oh, yeah.
afterwards, oh, that's what you're trying to go for.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, all of that's fair. This was because of a second sit down, and I went in intentionally with my notebook open, ready to take notes, ready to listen for these things. So I think that being prepared was a huge factor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once I started, I would pause and be like, wait a minute, let me look this up, you know, and I would actually, you know, go look a little. So you're right. I had to research the movie as I went, but I found it strangely enjoyable this time around. But I think A24 as a whole, you're right. You need to watch them more than once and watch them first for enjoyment and just story. Second time, go see what you missed.
But you
Yeah.
know how sucky that is as a moviegoer if you go to the movies to see this and you're like you watching it and you're like you walk out the theater like, so I gotta pay another $17 to go, you know what I mean, to go see this again. Like
But they want you to, so
I mean, but yeah, but a lot of people not gonna do that. Like unless you're like very invested in like A24 or like the directors or maybe the actors. I mean, I'll go see a movie a billion times, like honestly. But I like something that Biggie said. Biggie said, "I just look at the movie as a new witch being summoned to the coven, and this could be Thomason's story, but each of those witches has their own story as well." But my thing is this: if that's the case, because I actually like that breakdown of like she's being summoned and you know type of thing. It's kind of clear why she's being summoned, but then again, it's like, can anybody just be a witch? Like I sign my name in this book, and then I get these powers, I get these abilities. Like nothing explained in the sense, and I get it. Most movies like don't have to be explained, but I just feel like
Mhm.
because this one seems to be chock full of like either lore from like documented counts, as it said at the end of the movie, or wherever else they got this information from. Just a little peppering through of some other stuff would have been just nice. Just a little pepper through. That's all I'm asking. A little salt, a little pepper, add some seasoning. It was a little dry. You know, the movie was a little flavorless. Is all I'm saying.
Weird. I don't feel any of those
Yeah.
things this time around. It's so weird because everything you're saying, I remember saying all of these things. I remember
Yeah.
saying every one of them, and now I'm like, I don't. It's weird. Now I will say, when people said it was the scariest movie ever, that was the
That's a
thing
lie.
that really pissed me off. I was like, not even
Yeah.
kind of.
Where?
Like it's a little eerie, but nothing
Yeah.
scared me.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
made me jump. Nothing made me go, oh, I'm gonna have a nightmare tonight. None of it. So
No,
I
honestly,
don't
none
like
of
that.
these movies were scary to me. They were all like mysterious and
Or disturbing.
dark,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Somewhat disturbing.
I like that. None of
Right.
them made me go like, oh my god. Like, I wasn't scared at all.
But I think a lot of
Yeah.
people take the word horror and they automatically assume that means scary.
True.
You know.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've
but
been
I
having
mean,
that-
I kind of would though. I don't know.
You're gonna say,
If
Josh?
you say thriller, thriller is different than horror.
No, I think a movie can be a horror movie without being scary. Because I think
Yeah.
when I'm looking at things, Hocus Pocus is a horror movie.
Mhm.
I think Jurassic Park. Well, Jurassic Park is scary, but Jurassic Park is a horror movie. I think horror is a
Sci-fi
very
horror,
broad
definitely.
genre.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think people automatically assume like horror is scary, and I'm like, you think Hostel is horror, and there's nothing really scary in that one either.
Right.
It's just gore. Half
Right.
the Saw movies like gave up on jump scares years ago,
Right.
Mhm.
and just like, oh, look at all these crazy practical effects we've got. Like we're
Right.
cutting off limbs, it's horror. And I'm like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
isn't scary, but it's still definitely a horror movie.
Mhm.
So, and I feel like there's a whole different genre. I think
Yeah.
absolutely The Witch still constitutes horror, even though it's not scary, but there's still like moments of, like dread or discomfort.
Well,
Yeah.
Like,
but
like-
scary isn't also just horror because the movie Cliffhanger is not a horror movie, but every time that girl's gonna fall, I think I'm gonna die inside
Oh, yeah.
because I'm horrified by what's happening to her. So
Yeah, definitely.
it's totally that coin flips. I had a
Well, I mean,
person.
there's-
No, please go ahead. I've been talking
Oh,
a lot
I'm-
tonight.
No, I'm sorry. No, you haven't talked enough actually, but because you don't lie yourself. So
That's
no,
fine.
the same. Like for me, horror is very like it's like a term that people just be like, oh, you're supposed to get scared. You know, when people hear horror, they think like I'm supposed to get scared, right? Like there's no like I'm supposed to scream like nah, you know, type of thing. And that's not what it is. I mean, for me, I always feel like horror movies are thinkers. And I don't mean like they gotta be like they're not like Vanilla Sky or nothing, because Lord have mercy. But they're like I just mean like horror for the most part, like Hereditary made me think.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it's a horror film, and it made me think, and I was like, wait a second. Like to me, that's what I like about horror films. They make me think. This one, I don't know. Maybe it made me think too much, and that's why I'm pissed off. 'Cause I couldn't think.
That's possible. I've had that though, where you just maybe
It
you're
made
not in
you
the
dig
mood for
too
that.
much, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Made,
yeah.
made her think she should have watched one of the other ones first.
You feel me? Like, come on, Josh. Like, seriously. I was like, maybe this one should have been last. They also went opposite, like the longest to the shortest. Like, 'cause I
Yeah.
was like,
What I was going to say was
I'm-
there was a TikTok I did the other day about a question one of my fellow horror talkers, well, I'm not a horror talker, movie talkers who's a horror talker, asked me to answer, and it was, what's the difference between a horror comedy and dark comedy? Or, horror comedy and dark comedy. And I was like, look, horror is about excessively pushing those tropes so that they're funny instead of freaky or disturbing. You push them to the extreme. And then dark comedy is still comedy, but it's about topics we don't normally joke about, like death or loss of limb or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a
not
big
really a horror element.
yeah, there's a wall there, I think, and there's a big difference. And I think we miss the subgenres across the board most of the time. We just like, oh, that's a horror movie. Yeah, well, what kind of horror movie? Like,
Right.
I was like, that's a car.
I think I would say similar to what you're saying, but my theory was always that horror has to do with fear or scary, not necessarily to the audience, but as a plot device. So like Idle Hands is a horror comedy because
Yeah.
people are terrified of this possessed hand that's killing people. Like they're fearing for their lives. So we at home are not scared. We're having a good time. But they're terrified, just like in Hocus Pocus. The kids are terrified. We're not scared, but the kids, what's happening to them is scary, and there's zombies, stuff like that. Whereas like Very Bad Things isn't a horror movie, but it is
Yeah, but
certainly a
damn.
dark
And
comedy, like
disturbing.
a very
Yeah.
dark disturbing comedy. But none of those people are like terrified of their lives. They're not
Right.
feared. They're just like worried about what's going to happen, and it's all
Yeah.
kind of played for a different element, I guess. So that's how I would tell the difference between a horror comedy and a dark comedy. But it's all subjective too.
It is.
Yeah.
Brian, you were going to say something.
Oh no, I was just jumping into what Josh was saying too. Yeah,
Fair enough.
totally agree. Yeah.
So The Witch, I mean, there's still more to unpack here, and we have a little time. Are these movies too visceral for people? Not everybody likes these really kind of, when the gore happens, it's a lot to take kind of thing. And this was, I think, the lightest of the three films as far as how visceral it
Right.
got. But there were still moments with the apple in the mouth, or even just seeing the witch in the woods, like doing whatever she was doing at the
Mhm.
stump or whatever in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's hard to see. Do you think? I don't think you guys necessarily think it's too much, but do you think audiences might think this is too much?
I would say yeah, because we live in a time now where sensitivities run higher, and when sensitivities run higher, a lot of things get lost in like either visually or in translation, and that goes with like being like stand-up comic. Like jokes don't hit the same because people are more sensitive. So I feel like that goes into like maybe like all art. Because I thoroughly enjoyed this because all three movies, when it came to like the gore and all that kind of stuff, I enjoyed it because it reminded me of like maybe 90s horror, like like because we don't get that stuff anymore because people are so like production companies are so intent on making it so everybody can see this movie.
Right.
So they want to
PG-13
have
horror.
everything be PG-13. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like type of thing. And it's just like not to say that you can't make like a decent horror movie PG-13 because Doctor Strange is a decent horror film.
Yeah.
And it's PG-13. You know what I mean? And so but I'm just saying that like I miss the times where it's like we seen it, and I'll just get to a movie. I'll be back, but I'll just say like in Midsommar when she jumped down and smashed into the like to see her, and then she pulled back and to see the skin kind of, and I was just like, oh, that's nice, and maybe I'm nuts.
Yeah.
That's why we like horror, though.
I'll just preface that. I was like, oh, like because just because like you guys know, like Josh is about to know, but you guys know like I want to be an actor. Like I love that type of stuff. I love practical effects. I love that stuff. So like to see that, to like I don't know, it was just good. Like the apple coming out of the kid's mouth was just I was like, that's so great. Like them having to like open his mouth, and I don't know, like certain stuff, like certain scenes are really good in this film. It's just as a whole, I was just like, oh no. But I think production companies are scared, so I enjoyed this. I enjoyed all these.
Brian, what do you got? Oh, Josh, go ahead.
Oh no, Brian, you go first.
No, Josh, go ahead. I want to hear it.
Y'all so polite.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I also don't think it's too necessarily too visceral. I think it's the fact that the movies themselves weren't pitched as gory movies. So because it's so rare and it only happens every once in a while, it's so like jarring. Like we'll talk about in Midsummer, like that whole movie was pitched like, oh, it's a really creepy, weird, mysterious, culty thing. And then when you see that cliff scene, you're like, what just happened? Like it's so unexpected. And I think that's the same thing with The Witch, is like this whole movie was, oh yeah, it's like a period piece, but it's really creepy and like scary about a witch. And then when you see the few instances of gore that are in there, you're like, oh, I had no idea this was coming.
Yeah.
Where like The Strangers or something like that, they pitch it as like, oh yeah, no, you're gonna see 30 slit throats over this like minute. So get ready, because that's all this movie's.
Ready.
At least Saw was the same way. What do you got, Brian?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's done. I mean, that's David Eggers, really. He wants those moments to be more impactful. So he's not gonna like keep them every 10 minutes I want to have a like messed up scene or whatever. He wants to draw that out and then like hit you with it out of nowhere and have it be impactful. But yeah,
agreed. We have two other movies that are going to be quite a bit and I think Midsommar is going to be kind of a lot to unpack. So I think maybe we should rate
Yeah.
this film and move to Midsommar, especially since it seems like I'm the one that's like, woo, the witch, while everybody's like, yeah, it was okay.
I do want to see it again.
Mhm.
I do like want to like, especially after watching Eggers' other two films and really loving those two films too. So it's like what am I missing in The Witch? Because I love his work. 2 out of 3, ain't bad. So
Agreed. And it makes you want to revisit the third, like you said. So
yeah,
absolutely. So we're going to start with La. Why don't you give us your rating 1 to 10 and show us how this is done.
Okay, so for me, I will give The Witch a 6. 6 is usually I won't watch it again unless somebody
right.
puts it on and I have no choice
like,
but to watch it.
This
I'm
isn't
like,
really like a, let's pop on The Witch,
you know, type of thing. So like it'd be so. I will say I'm kind of like my number 6 will always be evolving, and I guess for this movie it will evolve into I won't watch this again for maybe another 10 years or something. I'll maybe 5 to 10 or something. It's like prison. Like I'll revisit it. Give me 5 to 10 or something, and I'll revisit. Maybe. But yeah, I give it a 6 though. I mean, it could be worse. Is all I'm saying.
Oh, it could be. It could be.
I've been meaner.
Mr. Josh, what do you give this movie? 1 to 10.
Probably also a 6 right now. I would say a 6 for me is not in a hurry to rewatch it, but we'll absolutely revisit it if convinced by a friend on a podcast who apparently thought it was great.
You're welcome,
funny.
A24. You're welcome.
Yeah.
I had intended. I mean, I still own it. I might as well watch it while I've got it.
Right.
I had intended to rewatch it before this, and I just didn't have time. But because it's the only one of these 3 that I haven't rewatched recently, and I definitely want to give it another shot. I'm almost certain I'll like it more on a second viewing, especially knowing a little bit more about the backstory and stuff and being able to unpack that. But yeah, for now, 6 is I don't regret watching it. There were certain things about it that I really enjoyed, but if I'm sorting through my DVDs trying to find something to throw on in the background,
it won't be The Witch.
Slim chance this is getting picked. Yeah.
It won't be The Witch. Yeah.
Mr. Brian.
I'd say I think I must have. I guess I liked it a little more than Josh and Lala, but I'm gonna give it a 7. It's still fairly low for my ratings, but yeah, just because like all the other stuff was really great for me. I mean, I'm a cinematography nerd too, and I just thought it was gorgeous, and I love when a DP is going to try to go with like as much natural light as possible, and I think that's just I gotta respect that, and everything else is so great. It's just like it's just hard to like really like it when like it isn't one cohesive kind of thing, at least on this first viewing. It just feels like, oh, there's a great bit, here's a great bit, here's a great bit, but there's these missing pieces in between those. So definitely gonna rewatch it though.
I definitely am glad you all will. I already gave my rating. It's a 9, and I think I've kind of given my reasons. I was looking to see if there was anything else I had. I did look up, of course, all the characters' names just to see what they meant. And here's an interesting bit. Thomason means twin. Just putting that out there for what you want to take that as. But to me, that kind of tells you from the get-go that she's like a twin to the witch in a way, like she's going to be pulled by the witch almost automatically. And also the lust that the brother has for her.
I mean, that would have been cool.
She's an object
though.
of desire. So the witch.
That would have been better though if they would have shown that the witch was actually a part of her family and they outcasted her like they did, like they were about to do her, like they were about to give her up.
Yeah, they were.
Family.
They were.
Like that would have been nice if that would have been in the movie. Also, you didn't tell me Samuel. What's his sin?
Oh, what does Sam mean? Oh,
Yeah.
what?
No,
what is
not
Samuel
what it means.
sin?
What's his sin?
So I put Samuel down as sloth. Can't walk around. Pretty lazy.
Well, see, I looked
the
at
witch
it
wouldn't
like,
care. It would be good enough for the witch to be like, well, that's a sin.
I don't know.
Because according to them, they're sinners from birth through life.
Just seeing, I was thinking that too in my head, like, or she ate her twin in the womb. I was thinking about that too. Like maybe, like I don't know if she showed some type of witch ability or power or something, I would have maybe like this a little bit
But the
more.
goat
But
was
just to
the
be
witch.
like,
I mean, the goat was the devil. The goat was the whole time. I mean,
but the goat was the devil, not the witch. So like my thing is, if they would have made it so something about her was supernatural in some way, or how she moved or what she did, I probably would have like latched onto it a little bit more. But just to be like, we can make any of you, because like I don't know. I just grew up in a time where like witches were, even if you were evil, you were special in some
Right.
way. There was something about you.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is, what was special about her? She was getting booed. She was turning 16. Like I don't know what was
Okay,
special about
so
her.
it's colonial America, and like, there's not a lot of white chicks around. So, just saying, maybe that's what was special about these 7 women or 8 women. They were all white women in
I don't know.
14 something. Like, it's not. I mean, it's like really early Americas, like
Hmm.
very early.
Okay, I will say this though. I do
Yeah, it's like
like the scene
1630.
when she's in her. I do like the scene when she comes to Black Phillip, which I was like, Black Phillip, but all right. No, but no, I'm just playing. I Josh, I kid. No, because I did look up Black Billy Ghosts though are significant too, and they're significant in the story. But I like the scene where she walks in and she's like, "Talk to me. I know you can talk." Like, it gave me very much Lilo and Stitch vibes, and she was like, "Speak. I know you can talk." But
And then he
that's
did,
what my brain.
right?
And he did. He was like, "Okay, okay."
He's like, "Here's my book," you know. And at one point, you
You know,
actually see the devil in human form for a second, only like the coat and the
no,
leg,
no,
right?
I know. I love that part where it's
Yeah.
like you see, like that's the part I'm talking about. Like when it's like she's talking to the goat and you don't see the goat, and then when it pulls, he was like, "You see the book," and it pulls back to the book, and then you see him cross the book, and you see a foot and a hoof, and I was just like, that's majestic right there. Anybody else get the majesty of this? I was like, that was just so good. Just again, I know I'm nuts, but I just love that part. And he like
You're
swings
not wrong,
behind
though.
her. It was just very like the way the camera just kind of like pulled back. You saw, and then it pulled into her face, and then you saw him kind of like cross her twice, and then come back around. It was just, I was like, that's good direction. That's just good
I don't even remember that scene, so now I definitely have to rewatch it.
All 3 of
I'm
these
like,
films
I know.
had that kind of
shit
stuff.
got
Right?
me. Yeah,
Right?
like that would have got me.
No, I like that. Like that's why I feel like certain parts of this was like very beautiful to watch. Like or like freaky to watch, or like when Caleb walks up to the cottage, which I'm sorry, if I get lost, I'm gonna go back the way I came. I'm not gonna go further into the darkness.
Right?
But
He
that's
did.
just
You know,
me.
he did.
And he went to this when he gets to the cottage and she like comes out, and you can tell that he's a boy that's like he's feeling his own just as much as his sister is getting older and she's like becoming a woman. He's becoming a young man, and like that's why he's kind of like looking at his sister, even though he know he shouldn't be, because he's having these feelings. And for this woman, this beautiful woman, to come out and like stare at him, he's like mesmerized. And the moment she kisses him and that little decrepit hand on the back of his head, I was like, no, that's nice. not kissing a child that young, but that was nice. So it's like, and cinematically, I was like, that was nice. I was like,
No, for sure. Okay, so this sounds like we could keep talking about The Witch, so let's be careful. We have 2 other movies that have plenty to
we
talk
can
about.
go ahead. Change it.
So let's talk about Midsommar. So Midsommar is an Ari Aster film, and this is, of course, the same writer as Hereditary, writer-director. And this movie stars Florence Pugh as the main star, and I think this was one of her breakout roles. Like, I don't think I knew her before this role. Also stars William Jackson Harper, who we know from The Good Place, and Will Poulter, who is without a doubt an up-and-coming superstar, just from what I've seen. That doesn't hurt your career, at least not yet. So let's go straight to Josh this time. What do you think of Midsommar?
So excited because it's Florence.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about this movie.
Oh no, he doesn't like it at all, you guys. He doesn't like it at all.
No.
I feel better about this now. Okay.
No, yeah, I adore this movie. We saw it opening night because I loved Hereditary. Like I said, I saw that without too much hype, and Hereditary blew me away. So I was very excited about this one because I love Florence Pugh, I love William Jackson Harper, I love everything about it. I was like, hell yeah, new creepy culty horror movie. I love that it takes place during the day for the most part, which isn't
that is
super common in horror movies. They've talked about that with like Texas Chainsaw being one of the big ones that was terrifying in sunlight. And this one wasn't like terrifying, but the entire film almost, I was just like in the theater like, I don't feel good right now, like but in a good way, where I was like really enjoying this.
Well, I think they used that to their advantage.
Yeah, it was
expectation.
just super atmospheric,
Mhm.
just beautifully shot. I love again the acting.
Yeah.
It's a long movie. I still haven't even watched the
Yeah.
director's cut, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get bored, and the fact that I've rewatched it like 3 times since I've seen it, I think is also
Mm.
a testament. Because if a movie's more than 90 minutes, I'm probably not going to rewatch it anytime soon unless I am in the mood to see it. And this one, I'm
Mhm.
just like, we should like throw on Midsummer again. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I like this one a lot the first time I saw it, and I like it more every time I watch it because
Mm.
I pick up on little things.
And
Yeah,
this was your fourth, third viewing when you rewatched it this time?
fourth, I
Fourth
think.
view.
I watched it just a couple months ago. Every like September through October, all we watch is horror movies, and that was one that we watched again in October.
That's my household as well.
Yeah.
Brian, Midsommar.
This one, yeah, it's tough. It's very similar to The Witch for me. Like I mentioned this up front where I was gonna have to, I think I have to rewatch
Mhm.
all of these really. I think definitely like this one. Like there was a lot of like visual metaphor and just metaphor in general that and that's I think that's Ari Aster's thing. Like he loves like placing that throughout because I felt like that was Hereditary. He was definitely going for a lot of deeper stuff in that film. And this one as well in Midsummer. I love Florence Pugh, like, and what Josh mentioned. I totally agree with like a lot of what Josh already mentioned. The cinematography is great. I love the aspect of like it being in the daytime. And like the thing is too is like another thing, a way like it's shot is like there's a lot of color. Like it's very colorful.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little, it is muted though, so there is that aspect where they kind of like there's a lot of color, but they pull those colors back. It's not like too vibrant, which I think is um, part of the appeal to it, and it kind of makes things kind of off,
Mm-hmm.
where it's during the day, but like there's something's not quite right. Yeah, I did love like those elements of when we, like we mentioned it with The Witch, where like you'd see these like really terrible things happen, and it would just like really sad. Yeah, like the stuff with the cliff really like stuck with me, and it's just like, I mean, just like Florence Pugh's reaction to that whole part was like perfect. I mean, that was me. Like, what did I just like? What what did I just see? Um, but I think I just had a hard time with like trying to like connect some things to it, and I think if I did a rewatch, I think I'd probably appreciate it more. Though
That's
that's my
fair.
initial take. Yeah,
That's
I've
fair.
only seen this once too, by the way. So
This was your first viewing.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay. La, Midsommar.
This is my first viewing for all these films. Actually, I've never seen any of these. So
Mhm.
knowing like the hype behind this film, I was like, oh, okay. I like Florence Pugh from like Black Widow because obviously that's the first time I've seen her.
Mm.
And I know she's been in other things, but I was just like, oh, okay, I'll go back to some of her like beginning type things to see like and she was amazing in this. Like she was great. Like
Mhm.
everything she did was very visceral in the sense of like her crying,
Yeah,
her pain, her
yeah.
very, very visceral. This movie as a whole is like a weird movie. If you didn't know, if you didn't see it, it's kind of weird. I will say I thoroughly enjoyed it. I will say that I wasn't surprised by anything.
Hmm.
I don't know, like how, like so for me, I like to be surprised when I watch films. I like to be like, oh man, like I caught it too late, like have that moment. And in this movie, I was very much like, oh, she gonna be May Queen because he showed her the picture of
Oh,
May Queen. I was like, oh, okay, she gonna be May Queen.
what's
But then I was
funny is
watching it. Yeah, go
What's
ahead.
funny is there is like I guess there is like other people have said there is the whole movie has foreshadowing in it, so you're probably
Oh my
picking
god,
up on that foreshadowing
so
like
many of, and
right away.
I guess so, because I guess
Yeah.
that's what it is, because like it was
Mhm.
like he showed her the May Queen. I was like, oh, she's gonna be May Queen, and then
Right.
I was like, oh, he likes her. He likes he has feelings for her. He kissed her when she became May Queen. I was like, okay, and then like when they were up on the thing, I was like, oh, they gonna jump because the dude talked about it beforehand. He was like, when they turn 72, they out of here. Because she was like, well, what happens after 72? And she was like, and then she started laughing, and I was like, no, they're gonna die. Like something.
Yeah.
And so I was catching all these things. So like I was never like, oh my god, The only thing that made me go like, was this a real? Is because the William Jackson Harper was the only black man there, and I know as a black person that would make me uncomfortable. He was not
Right.
uncomfortable,
But
and I was like,
his thesis for his PhD was this. So like this was his passion.
no,
Right.
I get that, and I have my passions too. Like I love doing stand up, and I got asked to do stand up north in Michigan, and it's very Caucasian and it's very racial.
Yeah.
Up there as well, and I would not go unless my friend came with me. So
Mm.
I get that he was probably like in a sense where he's like, I feel comfortable, but also I feel like
Because he's with his
you
friends, maybe.
because you're
but-
with your friends. So I feel that,
Mhm.
but also a lot of things were happening where I feel like my brain would have overwritten my education in that moment, and I would have got out.
Christian had that same problem. How Christian didn't pick up on the fact that his friends were dropping like flies.
Man, like
Right.
flies.
Not dropping,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
disappearing like flies or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
that. I was just like, Christian, you are dense, dude. And that is one of my least favorite characters in
Like
cinema.
that place can't be
like,
that big. Oh yeah.
I
yeah.
hate this guy. So
Listen, he's the absolute worst. And throughout the whole film, I was like, him and Mark are two of the worst people, but they don't deserve to die like this.
okay, I will defend
Yeah.
Mark. He's just a dude, and we only see his bad bits. I have a feeling he's actually a pretty decent guy, and he didn't mean to pee on the tree. They should have told him, but we know that they set him up. They set him up.
No,
They
no,
should
but
have
he
said
should've
that
been
is our
like-
sacred dead people tree. Don't pee on it. They
But
should have said
also
that.
he
you know.
goes, but also when he finds out, he's like, so is dead. Like he does not care. Like
He's an American.
so
They
is
even
dead.
say that.
So is
There's even a
dead.
quote. He's like, "You're an American. Go jam yourself in there." He says that because they know how Americans are, so they know by obfuscating and keeping that information away,
We are
one of
not
those
all the
Americans is
same.
gonna one of those Americans is gonna piss on that tree. Maybe not all of us would, but one. If you took 5 Americans, one American is gonna piss on that tree. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to throw us under the bus, but it's probably pretty true. They use the fact that we
Black
were
Biggie.
Americans, to
No,
their advantage.
just enough. You're right. You're right. No, he is the representation of an ignorant American
he is.
abroad. Like he is. Like he very much so is. I was
He
just so
was.
like, he was just like, I'm so.
And he had the weirdest, creepiest line in the movie, like, I want to give her a bath. What was that? Okay, that was a weird line.
Oh come on!
No,
You've never
he's been-
said that
he's-
once in your
He's
life.
been
Like,
making,
come
but
on.
he's making stuff like he's been saying stuff like that like since the beginning of his character. He's just making like little. He's like, all the women here, like,
Right.
oh,
He definitely was the
But,
the
like-
ladies guy, no doubt.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
so,
But
okay.
he was so nervous too.
This was my second viewing of this film, and the first viewing that I had was my wife was like, "You got to watch this Midsommar movie," and I was like, "No." I was out of horror for a while because I had a huge anxiety problem, and so I stepped away quite a bit until I could slowly step back in. And Midsommar is not one of those like, let me just jump back into horror kind of movies. It's visceral enough that it had an effect on me. When I was done with the movie, I felt ill. I felt kind of just off, and I had to digest that. But every day I digested it, the more I was like, man, that was a good fucking movie. Like that was. And tonight we can have more than one of those, by the way. Normally we were PG-13. We stayed at one of those, but
Yeah.
it's A24
One
horror.
F-bomb per show. but,
Go
you
go
know.
go wild. Just
I was
within
gonna
reason.
ask. I cursed like a sailor.
I know
and
you
caught
do,
my-
and that's
like
one of the
5
reasons I
times.
made it that way. It's for you. So if you feel
I
like going for it,
I
go for it.
actually meant to tell you that at the beginning. I meant to
Yeah.
say it at the beginning, but I just slipped my mind.
Yeah.
So
So
we're good.
so I spent the time and digested it. So I also was like, I'm not running back to see this movie because it did make me feel that way. But then when this opportunity came up, I was like, oh, I could revisit this and really feel it again and see what I think and digest it further. And I broke it down much more from the cinematic perspective, from the cinematography, direction side this time, a little less of the story, because the story is pretty linear. If you follow it, it's there and it is good. But I don't think that's the most interesting part of the film. Talking about what Brian said about the cliffs or the lighting and the color of the film, the cliff scene was overblown. Everything with the highlights were
Oh, yeah.
peaked
It was
really
yeah.
high. Mostly because
Yeah.
it was
Yeah, it was really hot.
Really, it was like noonish. It was midday,
Mhm.
but it was to make you feel even more uncomfortable because the scene is not supposed to be easy to deal with, and so they're putting us on edge. Almost, especially if you saw it in theaters, you're just like, damn, could you turn
Yeah,
that
it'd be
down?
bright in the theater. Yeah.
So I think that's smart a way to approach the film. There's a lot of shots like that. I think the other one that really stuck out to me was showing how Danny was on the outside of the group because they come to the apartment. It's a shot of the room. You see the 3 roommate
Mhm.
sitting there, and it's just the mirror that's kind of foggy. And when Christian gets
That
up
was
and
a great
leaves,
shot.
it really was, and
That
they
was a
stay on it
great
for a long
shot.
time. But when she
Mhm.
comes in, you can't see her really. You see just a little bit of her, and you get to see their facial expressions, and you can tell she is not part of this
Mhm.
group. And that shot
Yeah.
says it all. You didn't have to move the camera to tell me all of
Yeah.
that.
At
And this
all.
movie's
It
Yeah.
was
And
loaded
beautiful.
that's
with
Yeah.
like,
those moments.
and that's blocking
Yep.
right there. You know, just like how
No,
important
yeah,
blocking is.
that was one of my
Yeah.
favorite scenes. Just how it was
Mhm.
blocked. I was just like, I don't think I've ever seen. I mean, you've seen like reflections and like in mirrors or glass or however it is,
Mhm.
but just to have
Yeah.
the shot on there, like she's talking, but just to see their reaction to what she's saying, how uninterested they are. It was just so great to see it. And when she finally sits down, what's his name? William Jackson Harper's character gets up and like goes behind him. Like he's so disinterested in this
Mhm.
entire conversation. Everybody leaves except for what's his name, Pele or whatever his name is. Like
Pele.
he's the only one who Pele. He's the only one that like enjoys her for the most part.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
we all know why, but he's like the only one that enjoys her. So
Yeah.
So lungs on the outside. Wow. Sorry.
That part's so nuts. But
Sorry.
that's
But my
again, that's
question was like, was he still alive?
He was breathing.
yeah. It was
Because
because
the lungs were moving, and I was like, is he doing that, or are the things through it? I was just like, it's a feat of engineering. Whoever decided to do that,
Yeah.
that
Oh
was
yeah,
crazy.
he was alive.
What
I
were you?
wish we would have seen Connie. I was like, what they do to Connie? Did they just kill her? Because when I heard that scream, I was like, that's Connie. I was like, because they all heard the scream, like everybody turned around, like what? And I was like, that's Connie. They killed her, but I don't know where she is.
Josh, you were gonna
So
say?
we see her leg, don't we? Isn't it her leg sticking out of the garden?
No, that's
nah,
Josh. Or,
That's
yeah, that's Josh's leg
there's
that you
Josh's
see.
leg.
So Josh's leg you see, but you do see Connie at the end. She's one of the
I know
first
you see her at
people
the
they
end. She's one of the
wheelbarrow
first
in.
people they
That's
right. But I was just like, what did they? But it was that they made it a point to kind of like show Josh's leg and show Simon in the thing, and I was just like, so we gonna see where Connie then? And they didn't show her, so I was just like, but they ended up like willing her in. I just wondered where she was.
I bet you that made it to the cutting room floor just for timing. They needed
Probably,
to pace it out because it was getting a little long. But Josh, go ahead.
Yeah.
The director's cut's apparently like 30 or 40 minutes longer, which is nuts. I've been meaning to get it because obviously I love this movie and I want to watch it, but I've heard so many mixed reviews about it because they've said
Mhm.
like there was a lot of like Lala was saying, she picked up a lot of the foreshadowing, and I noticed that too when they're panning across the tapestries and it's
Yep.
essentially telling you what's exactly going to happen
Yeah.
in the movie.
Uh-huh.
And even I was like, okay, like I'm
Yeah.
glad I got to figure things out in Hereditary, but Ari just straight up told me the plot of the movie right
right,
now
and that was my yeah.
through this luncheon, like what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want more of that, but apparently the director's cut taps more into, as I was mentioning, William Jackson Harper being the only black guy there. Apparently the cult has more like Aryan, like the
Mhm.
purple type ties
Yeah.
to it, and they're like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
the cult is very like white power type
Oh
like
wow.
vibes
Oh,
to it,
damn.
and they excise all of that backstory. Where they're like, no, it's just like a creepy cult of flower people, and they're like, oh
Yeah.
no, he like Ari
But they're
wanted to be
also
like,
super racist. Like,
yeah, super
Yeah.
racist.
right.
I mean, for
I
me,
mean,
I would have loved a little sprinkle of that somewhere. It doesn't, because like
yeah.
my life, people verbally don't say racist things to me. I mean, they have,
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah.
around my growing up and around my life and things like that.
Mhm.
But now it's very much more like people just stare at you, or people look at you, or they're passive aggressive, or
Mhm.
all these type of like microaggressions. So like
Yeah, the microaggressions. Yeah,
to
that's
me,
interesting.
it would have lended a little bit more to it if they would have actually did it, especially since he was the only black person. And
Right.
it made, and like, because to me, the moment I saw that they came to this place, he was the only black person. Of course, they had like Connie and Simon looked like they weren't fully, white, or they could have been like biracial, however it is. So they were people of
Mhm.
color as well. But
Right.
there could have been more, because it would make even more sense why they took them out so quickly, but then left the other, because it's like you want the blonde hair, white, blue eye, you want those in it,
Mhm.
but you kind of have to get rid of the rest. Just a little sprinkle of that would have just added a little bit more validity to
Well,
what's
Right.
they
going
did
on.
say
But
they bring in outsiders, and there's nothing but white people around. So I mean, it's lightly there, but I agree it should be there more. And knowing that they cut it out considering that, did we see Josh's body in the yellow house at the end? Is he actually in there, or is it just the leg?
He is.
He is in
He
there.
is.
Okay, I
He
wasn't
is.
sure if they were just like, now we're burying him. Like
He's
that's
like
how
on
bad
the.
it was.
He's on the other side. He's one of the sacrificed people. He's on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we see him up there.
Yeah. So sociologically, this is an interesting film because we're talking about another culture who, even if, let's get rid of the cult stuff for just a minute. Let's get rid of obviously the Aryan stuff. Let's just set aside that this is just a different culture, and the suicide stuff that we do see, unalive stuff, however we say that these days, is. Man, this is definitely a trigger movie, by the way. I don't think we covered that, and maybe we should have. Like, this movie, I've had friends, I've had, loss in my life. So the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, crap. Like, I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
And it's part of the reason that they don't tell you is that you're not supposed to be. But if we just set all that stuff aside, when the kind of head lady stops them and goes, hey, they wanted this. This is part of their life. This is our choice of life cycle. And then they were like, well, that's fucked up. You shouldn't be doing that. This is terrible. And I'm like, yeah, but you literally don't get to choose for them what they do with their life cycles. This if it stayed there and it was just an interesting, like, dissertation on that kind of stuff, then I was fascinated just by that aspect of their society and just seeing.
Well, I think that's why like Florence Pugh's reaction is so powerful because of what she had just experienced, before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's like, I don't remember if she like actually saw like
she did
her family.
She did.
So
it blinked and she saw her family by the rock, like dead. Yeah.
So that, like, I mean, she's already not fully there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's trying to grieve, and already her like boyfriend is like just not a good dude right away. Just trying to.
He's a poser because all of a sudden you want to do your thesis on what I've been doing my thesis on since the dawn of time. Like, sir.
And instead of trying to help her grieve too, and like, I mean,
you forgot her birthday. He was like, I thought it was yesterday, but you never said happy birthday, even if you thought it was. He was annoying.
Who takes mushrooms when they get to a brand new country?
Not me.
No, absolutely not.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't going to take mushrooms, but if you're going to, shouldn't like the safety of your home or like a place where you have people you can trust and know, because she started messing her up right away. So
yeah,
I don't know.
No, he's trash. He's just
so
trash.
Josh, what is it about this film that makes you do repeat viewings?
So it was mainly just I liked it so much the first time we saw it in theaters that I wanted to watch it a second time at some point. My girlfriend wasn't as crazy about it the first time. She was like, I don't know, it was just kind of boring. Like there were some moments that I appreciated, but I just wasn't really into it.
Yeah.
And so we watched a lot of movies together, and I just like, okay, so we're probably not going to revisit it anytime soon. And then as we were approaching the Halloween season, she was like, I kind of want to give Midsummer another shot because you seem to really like it, and I feel like I didn't appreciate it at the time. And so we rewatched it together, and she liked it a lot more the second time. And I was like, okay, see, and I just liked it even more too. And then the following spooky season came around, and we were putting together our list of horror movies to watch, and we were like, let's throw Midsummer on again, see if we still like it as we did last time, and we still do.
So there's hope for me then. Okay, so
so Josh,
revisit this again and like it more.
Right. There are few movies that I did not like the first time that I've revisited that I like, or I've revisited a lot of movies recently, and I used to be a contrarian. Like I thought the Friday the 13th remake was going to be trash, and I saw it and I was like, this is trash, before I even like really paid attention to it. And then I watched it again and I was like, actually this movie's pretty fun. Like this is good.
I like that.
That's how I am with most like any horror movie that I watched 10 years ago when I was a dick about things, I've rewatched recently, and I was like, I was way too hard on this movie. This is super fun.
That's cool.
It's every once in a while I'll rewatch one and I'm like, oh no, this is still bad. And
no, for sure.
But that doesn't happen nearly as often, which is great. I try to find good in all horror movies lately.
No, for sure. Yeah.
So
like,
you hit
that's
a spot.
Me too, because
that's the show. We're big on that here. So
because I'm not like I was not a horror person for a long time, and I actually like forced myself. And these guys know I did this like 30 days of horror thing in October, and like force myself to watch all these horror movies. Like, and they're all over the board too. I mean, there's like some super classic slashers to, you know, some other stuff like Hereditary and more cerebral stuff. And I definitely needed a break after that 30 days, but it definitely made me appreciate horror more. And I was like, I didn't really have any reason why I didn't or wasn't watching horror films as
Right.
much, you know. So now when a new horror film comes out, I like make it a point, like, okay, I'm gonna go see this one and not avoid it. But
Nice.
yeah, no, I appreciate that, because what you were saying about it, because it's like, yeah, I definitely want to give it another shot, just because of all the things that are in there. And and maybe I wasn't picking up on the foreshadowing stuff soon enough either. So it's
No,
definitely
all
like,
that was
You're
man.
paying
I was
attention
yeah,
to cinematography is what you're doing the whole
yeah,
time.
exactly. I'm like looking at
You're
it
like, oh, what a
more.
great
no,
shot.
like
Oh, did they say something? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, what?
no,
What are you
I
talking
felt
about?
like the movie as a whole was just like a beautiful thing to watch, like just
Mhm.
aesthetically, like it was like very like even though the colors were muted, they were still like bright enough to
Yeah,
kind of like
no, totally.
capture, you
Hmm.
know, like the flowers and things like that, and just like and then like okay, like it was one moment where I was like, oh, it wouldn't be bad to live here because like it was what was it one scene like where they like well it's kind of like close to the end where I probably shouldn't have wanted to be there, but I thought it was just like when people are in pain, they share in the pain. I think that's beautiful. Like they,
It is.
Mm.
you know, I think that's very beautiful to
Yeah,
like kind of like share in somebody's pain. And honestly, when somebody shares in your pain, it helps you move through it just a little bit quicker than you would do it by yourself. So when she's like having a panic attack and she's crying because she
and
just
they're
saw him having
yeah,
sex, and they all start mimicking her noise and mimicking her sound, I was just like, my gosh, I was just like, as crazy as it would be to some other people to see that happen in like in a
yeah.
forum
Well,
or something like that, you would feel like you're not alone to kind of have a person do that with you. I thought that was beautiful, but you
yeah.
realize that everybody's kind of like nuts. And you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't like this
No, it
movie.
But
was.
that
I was just.
but
Yeah,
that's how they got her. Is it's like
yeah.
you saw that she was vulnerable. It was like she finally
Yeah,
found
that's
a group of people who
very
are
true.
ready
Yeah,
to empathize with her and ready
yeah,
to grieve
yeah.
with her. She's been
Mhm.
surrounded by these dickheads
I
who
just
just
feel
want
like
to
she's
let
been,
just
and then
talk about
also
like this.
it's a
What I'm
whole
going.
bunch of women too. Plus, it's a whole bunch of women too. And
Yeah,
it,
Yeah.
if we see it, she lost two women in her life. We don't see her with
Hmm.
any like women friends. She's latched on to this guy and his friends
Right.
Mhm.
essentially, and so like to get into a space with like a whole bunch of women that like okay, we might bake some food and do some stuff for like the guys or for everybody, whatever, but we also dance and we have fun and like we share in each other's pain and we take care of each other. And we do like she's been missing that. But on top of it too, I felt like towards the end where like that barn is burning up and the guys are in there screaming and everybody's freaking out, screaming with other people, and you just see her go from like coughing on like the smell of human flesh
Yeah.
to like sucking it up and then looking at the fire and then smiling. I think she finally just cracked. I was just like, because a lot has happened to her, like a lot,
Yeah.
like a murder suicide for her family. Like that's crazy. Like it's
Mhm.
to go through that and then like to not really have support to help through that. Like she they she got she slowly broke down throughout this whole thing towards the end, and now she's
Oh
fully
yeah.
into this cult. Like
So
it was
Yeah.
Bats and I were
kind of
having
cool
a
to watch.
They
agreed.
broke her down. Yeah.
Bats and I were having a discussion about this because I actually think that Pele maybe knew the sister or knew of the sister and knew she was bipolar and pushed
And
her.
set this in motion.
Mm.
Hmm.
Only because of the way the whole cult manipulates every person they come in contact with. They lie to them. They twist the truth. Even with Connie and her fiance, they explained how they met, and it was like, that's not how we met. You're kind of twisting the words here, and then they backtracked a little. Everything they said was a
Mhm.
little bit of a lie or a little bit of something, and it just feels like Pele either knew or was able to just capitalize, at least, on being like,
Right.
yeah,
It
make
was
her let her
all.
come.
Yeah, it was all. Yeah, like manipulation from day one from everyone.
Right.
Yeah, on that
Uh,
culty group. But that's like any cult, though, right? It's
true.
like they find certain people that are
Yep.
susceptible to those things, and they manipulate those and make them feel like, oh no, you're welcome here. You're one of us. We want to, and then gonna crack them.
Batsy makes a good point. What happens tomorrow in this movie? So, you know, just like the May
Damn.
Queen does her thing,
Yeah.
the the building's still in. What do? Do they get up and just have breakfast? Like, I mean, what do you think happens?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they
Plan
do.
next year.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I think honestly, I think they do because like these people jumped off the thing and killed themselves initially. Then like you have to kill one of them, and
Mhm.
the Americans freaked out about it, but everybody else is kind of like, this is our life. This is the way we do things. This happens like what they say, like once every 10,000 years or
90
something.
every
Whatever
90
they say,
years.
90.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
90 years. So like some of them have probably been through this multiple times. They probably relay these stories to the kids throughout because nobody's surprised any of these things happen. Nobody's
Yeah.
surprised when it does happen. So I feel like they're like, this is another successful event, and
So
they
the May
everybody goes
Queen,
to sleep.
the May
Mhm.
Queen is every 90 years, but the suicide thing, that happens, I bet you,
Mhm.
every year.
Yeah.
It's whenever somebody
'Cause
turns
Well, no,
72
no,
on
no,
their
no,
birthday.
no.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
72.
No, but yeah, because it's every time they turn 72. Yeah, I know
Right.
that, but I mean, like as a
Mhm.
whole, like this whole celebration
The
thing
9-day
Yeah,
festival
yeah,
is the
every
night,
90
right?
years.
Is the thing. So I feel like after they have sacrificed and done that thing, I think they're like, all right, that's successful. All right, let's go to sleep. Everybody wake up. We go back to what we usually do.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't think they skip a beat in this world.
No,
They skip a beat.
but does Danny skip a beat? What does Danny do next day?
Danny is. I feel like she's by the end of this. I feel like she's fully indoctrinated. I feel like her
Yeah,
and
he's
Pele
all
are
in.
going.
Oh, yeah,
He's
yeah.
going to be her bestie until he's something more, and they have their kids as a commune. And
But then
I
give
feel
that
like
kid up.
she's.
Like that kid goes
I
to the
feel
group.
like I feel like she's, but I feel like she's in it to the point where she might bring people back home. She has nobody. These are her ties now. I feel like now she's so into it now that she'll go off and rumspringa and bring some people back. Well,
This is one heck of a rumspringer.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. No. I'm with Josh on this movie. So full disclosure, Josh, I don't like Hereditary. I rated it pretty badly when we watched it on the show, and it's not because I don't think it's beautifully shot or well written. And Toni Collette, star, like goat, like she's brilliant, and even the gore, the head smash, all of that is fantastic. But the end was so boring, and ends are so important to me on film that when I get to the end and I'm like, a Satanist cult, huh? That's pretty typical and boring and done 1,000 times. And
Mm.
in a time when people may leave the show for this one, but in a time where the Satanic Temple is on the rise, it's kind of hard to see movies that are like talking trash about Satanists when there's a different kind of Satanist now, in a sense. And that's just me.
Well, they're Payman.
Right.
I don't know if it was necessarily like supposed to be like Satanist, but it was
Mhm.
the worshiping King Payman.
And I
Yeah.
know I'm
Right.
getting semantics here, but for me, I was still just like another. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ari Aster likes to break faces. Ari Aster likes to have women crying, and Ari Aster likes
break
cults. Those are the three things
Yeah.
Ari Aster will put in a film. So I'm looking forward to the next film so I can see those three things. I'm kidding,
That is a curious to consider though, because like Hereditary gave you enough clues to kind of put it together as you were watching, and then at the end you were like, oh shit, yeah, okay, like
Mhm.
dang, it was. And then you rewatch Hereditary and you catch all the little clues where like grandma's mad that I'm not a boy because they're trying to put payment in the sun and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm
And then
getting
with
yelled at, by
Midsummer,
the way. Sorry.
like, but then with Summer, I'm like, oh, you just gave us like
Definitely.
most of the movie in this whole like tapestry foreshadowing and all this
Yeah.
other stuff. So is A24 telling Ari like you got to give them more clues? Is the next movie?
All right.
The next
Yeah.
movie, it's going to be Tarantino. The next movie will be the beginning at the end, and then they'll explain how they got there.
We're going to the cult place to do the evil stuff. Let's go.
And make sure you
okay.
smash some
That-
faces and have women
Yeah.
screaming along the way. I just got yelled at for not saying Paimon. Multiple people
Yeah.
jumped at me, including my wife. Sorry, everyone.
I love Hereditary. That's like maybe like in my top 10 movies. I like
Mm.
and I had never seen it until we recommended it. Somebody recommended it for the show. But that's when I just loved the way it went. I was just like, I didn't see this coming. It was just great.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
No, and that's
I went into that one
say that
blind,
means something.
full hype, and I loved it.
Oh yeah. So I'm in between Lala and Snitty because I went in like pretty far after it had come out, and like so I'd heard all the hype and all this like great stuff. So I went in with like, you know, sky high expectations, and it looked great. And again, it's probably another one I need to rewatch, and I love Toni
Yes, you
Collette.
do.
Yeah,
No, I'm
so
sorry. No, I love Toni
I
Collette.
I will be watching Hereditary again based on tonight's discussion about rewatching films, and I'm hearing people are going to be rewatching some films, so I will give that movie another try for the panel, for that sake, and come back and
I'm
give.
gonna rewatch Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
And if you haven't watched that, do
Oh,
it's
man,
worth
so
watching.
good.
No, I'll
All the
rewatch
movie things.
That's amazing.
Say it again.
I'll rewatch Chippendale 100 times.
Right, yeah,
Not scary at all, but it
that
was
was
amazing.
great.
It was a
Yeah.
fever dream, though, in a lot of ways.
It was. That's probably what I loved about it.
So you did love it. Okay, I wanted to get your review. 'cause
Yeah, I
last week
did. It
and we
was
didn't
really
get it.
great. It was like someone shared like that watching Chippendales was like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme of him pointing every like ooh that's exactly what
Yeah.
that's what it was
I
for
like
me
that.
too.
It felt like a Space Jam with a little more soul, I think. Is
Yeah.
What I, thought the other day. I was like,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
this is how you like pack every IP you
Exactly.
possibly can
Yeah.
into a movie and still make it like relevant and not feel like a big
Exactly.
commercial.
Yeah,
But honestly, if you think about it, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, if you just took the plot, you could put anybody in those slots.
Oh yeah.
The plot. It's a
Yeah.
really solid plot. You know, you could move that plot around.
Well, they
Space
could have done
Jam was-
Tailspin and done the same movie.
Space
Yeah.
Space Jam was unnecessary.
Yeah, no, totally.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Extremely. We didn't ask for that.
Yeah.
We didn't ask for that. Okay.
On the thing too about the movie, it was like an episode of Chippendales Rescue Rangers. It was
Yeah.
totally a straight, just like, you know, watching a longer episode.
Look at the
I mean,
smile. He was so excited. Like my childhood came back to life. So
Yeah, it was pretty great.
I also loved how they managed to explain how they didn't have high pitched voices. That was important to me.
Yeah, that was
Oh, they're acting. Okay, they're actors.
that's so
It
good.
works
I know, like
perfectly.
they're acting
Yeah.
like
But
what,
then
like
they end up doing it towards the end when they were getting all excited about the thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
Right?
I was losing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a horror episode with little
I
Chippendales
digress.
right in the middle.
Yeah.
Just so
Yeah.
you guys know.
Chippendale tangent off to the side.
Right.
Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
we
we
love
do
it.
tangent on this show, and it goes wherever it
Mhm.
goes. So I was looking at Ari Aster's filmography, and it's interesting. Ari Aster has made 2 full-length feature films. That's it.
Yep.
These
Yeah.
2, which makes me really like Hereditary more already. Just knowing that bothers me that I didn't know that it wasn't like a 5th film by him.
Right.
And everything else was a short. Now I'm going to go on an Ari Aster like short, like exploration. Before we get to X and before we do the ratings, we're going to run out of time really quickly. But are you guys
Exploration.
excited about the A24 film Marcel the Shell with Shoes On?
I am.
I am. I don't know enough.
I'm a little dis about it. I saw the trailer when I went to go see Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I was like, "What in the HE double hockey is this?"
Okay, so
and
what
it
I got to
looked
say.
interesting though, but I was like,
So I'm doing a little piece on it, and it's something I'm really getting excited for. But it's Jenny Slate and her husband created the character of Marcel, and you should go
Yeah.
watch the short. It's on YouTube. It's 3 minutes, worth every minute, and you'll get more hyped for the movie once you see the short. This is, and it's not an A24 film; it's an A24 distribution release.
Mhm. It looks cute though.
And it does. So that's
trailer
what I
almost made me
love
get
about
teary up a little
A24. They
bit.
can
I
have
was
these
like-
whimsical films like this. They can have super visceral films like Midsommar, and then they can have just solid drama across the board as well. I'm sitting here fanning out. Let's get some ratings on Midsommar, and let's start with Brian.
I'm gonna give this one's tough because like the more we're talking about it and the more I'm hearing you guys, the more I'm like, did I like this movie more than I thought I did? Like, you know, because again, like this is another one. Was just like the cinematography is so great, and I love Florence Pugh. I mean, she's just like, just giving it her all in this one, and but I'm just gonna stick with my initial gut and then do a rewatch and be like, so I'm gonna give this one a 7.5 for this one, and I think,
Respect.
yeah, like I think like Josh, usually I give like pretty high reviews usually, like because I tend to like a lot of stuff for
Yeah.
the most part. That's rare. Like I think on this show I've rarely given like pretty low
I've
reviews.
never really heard you give it below a 5. I don't think.
Yeah, and if it is, then you know it was like
Don't watch that movie.
don't ever watch it again. Like
It
but
was like the
I
last
think that,
Witch Hunter or
yeah,
something you rated pretty low.
yeah, Witch Hunter was bad. Yeah, but
that's how I am. I'm not
yeah.
gonna rate it under a 5 unless it's like offensive. Like if there's something in the movie
Right,
that
yeah,
genuinely
like
upset me. Otherwise, I'm just like that was bad. But I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure
exactly.
people worked really hard on it. So
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it's exactly my thought. Yeah, I'm like, I have so much respect for so many other areas of filmmaking, you know, and like what they did. And I'm like, man, but also hearing you guys talk about it too is really great. And like, I'll definitely rewatch this one just for the foreshadowing alone, and then I'll probably pick up so many different things too.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah,
Law.
I knew the movie.
Go
I
for
knew
it.
the movie just by the movie. The movie
right,
told me the movie. So,
yeah,
Let's hear it.
so funny.
my review would be my rating would be an 8. Give this a solid 8. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was the leaps and bounds for me over The Witch. I mean, they both were beautiful, but this one had a. I gave it an 8 because it's like I actually initially gave it a 7, but I gave it an 8 because Florence Pugh was just something so like raw and like real about her performance.
Mm-hmm.
That I push it up a level, and it was essentially a 7 for me because I didn't like all the foreshadowing. I don't like being force fed stuff. Like I'll figure it out. Like let me, drop hints, drop like a little foreshadowing is fine, but they were literally like giving you like panels of what was going to happen. Like they literally told you the old girl was going to cut up her pubic hair and like put her blood into the cup for him. Like like they told you all these things are going to happen, and I was like, oh, it's going to happen to old boy because she has been eye raping him this entire time. Like that's all she's been doing. And so I give it an 8 because Florence Pugh like puffs it up. But it was this is rewatchable to me. I think somewhere maybe in the next few months I might actually just like watch it again and just kind of like partake in it and see what I have missed after letting it kind of like wash over me for a few.
Yeah.
There's some interesting chat going on, by the way, if you guys aren't picking up on it. Just Enough is in there talking about how she's got to lock all the movie things up to watch Midsommar with a breakdown of every scene, which is hilarious because I was almost going to do something similar. Not the dungeon part, but anyway. Josh, what is your rating of Midsommar? I assume somewhere in the double digits.
No, I don't give a 10 out liberally. I mean, I probably could.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if we're doing half measures, I'd say at least an 8.5. So yeah, 8.5 because that's rewatchable to me, but still like give or take only if I'm in the mood. Like there's movies I can throw on at any time, like Predator,
totally.
Tremors, and give me 10 minutes, and then I'm not doing anything else. I'm sitting down and I'm watching the movie.
You're like,
again.
What was I doing? Oh wait, yeah.
Yeah, Midsummer is
like
not
that.
one that I can just like toss on at 3 p.m.
While doing laundry. Yeah.
But I do love this movie. I love Florence Pugh in it. If you haven't seen Fighting with My Family, that was the one she did right before this, where she played a wrestler.
She played Paige. Yeah, I've seen that one.
That.
Yeah, and she was great in that
really
one.
good.
Yeah.
She looks unrecognizable though, actually.
Should have been bad. Like I was watching the trailers and I was like, this movie looks really cheesy, but it's got so many good people in it. And then I was reading the reviews and I was like, all right, I guess I'll watch. Like I got AMC A-list, let's check it out. And we went and saw it. I was like, oh, that movie's super fun. So
yeah, it was really great. Yeah.
Crushed it. And I was like, all right, I'm anxious to see what else this girl's in. And then they're like, oh, she's in the new Ari Aster horror movie. And I was like, hell yes. I'm all in. Let's check it out.
Let's do it.
So I hyped myself up for Midsommar and was still very pleased. I think I watched it, like I said, 4 or 5 times, and I like it a little bit more each time because I pick up on different things. And I think the fact that it drags a little bit at the beginning doesn't affect you as much when you already know what you have to look forward to. I think that definitely helps on rewatches.
I think it establishes Danny a lot. If you
let
that
I don't even think it drags. I don't even think it drags. It really sets up like her beginning to her end. It's a good bookend. It's a good and bookend essentially to her character for me. So
the payoff definitely does it for me.
So so we've got a 7, we've got an 8 and an 8.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with Josh. I'm going to give it an 8.5 as well. mostly because of the fact that it disturbed me, which I know it's supposed to, but it's still that's not a good feeling. So I'm trying to like still unpack that in one way or another. But I just want to hit these couple of things. So I wrote down several shots that really stuck out to me. And the shot of the sister going right to the screen of the email where you see the mask on her right at the beginning,
Yeah.
really impactful. Um, I've talked about how when they flip the camera over on this show many times, and usually it bugs the crap out of me. But in this one, because they were moving forward with the Prius, because the screen flips and you get so much, it's disorienting, which is of course definitely telling you what's coming, which I like. Um, every time they were doing anything with the festival, those shots were probably some of the most amazing shots where it was just a little wider shot, just watching the people flow, good set direction, really getting people going where they need to go, and really enjoy that. Um, and then I already mentioned the suicide shot where they blew everything out. Those are the shots that really stuck out to me, other than the obvious production value of the film and those set pieces. That commune, whatever. Like, I'm not sure if they built some of those buildings. I didn't watch any of the behind the scenes stuff, but it's a very cool looking and interesting place. But Ray has been here the whole time. I'm surprised Ray is not a big horror fan, but she was here watching, and I appreciate that, Ray. So thank you for showing up and
She's always so supportive.
Right, so supportive. So thank you for that, and enjoy your evening. So yeah, 8-5 for me. I really wanted to add those couple of things. I put a lot of thought into writing all these down, so want to make sure I covered them. X
Love it.
is a film by Ty West, and this is a very new A24 film. And this was not a film that was liked by everyone, but has still been, I think, received well generally. Stars Mia Goth, Brittany Snow, Kid Cudi, which I was like, that's Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
Like,
I know, yeah.
And then I don't think there's other giant names. Those are the big ones. Jenna Ortega, and then I already said Mia Goth. Anyway, so La, what was your take on X?
X. X gave me Texas Chainsaw vibe. I enjoyed it. I thought it was again, it was a movie where, like I said, none of these movies, like, I wasn't surprised in any of these movies for the most part. X, I was very much like, something ain't right with these old people. It's not right.
Yeah.
The moment I saw him, now I couldn't fathom the fact that she was horny than a some bitch. But to me, I thoroughly enjoyed that though. I thoroughly enjoyed like her whole thing was just that I'm just trying to get laid. I ain't been laid in a minute, and y'all just flaunting yourselves out here, and this is why you got to die. Like, that was just like such a great like premise in a way for me. This was like Zack and Mary makes a porno like on acid. Like, this was like,
it's interesting.
Like when I was watching, I was just like, this is giving me. I mean, but I liked the film. I thought it was great. It had good elements. I loved the time in which it took place, right? Because this could have easily been like, it's 2022 or 2021, and they were like, no, we're going to take it back to like at a time where like pornography was still something that people kind of talked about, but they didn't. But it was about to start blowing. But it was like hitting, but now it's about to start blowing up to like VHSs, and people will be able to, get it wherever they want to get it. So to me, like, that type of history in the background of it, which is nice to have as like a foundation. But I thoroughly enjoyed this, and like I read a lot about this movie, like, because Mia Goth plays Pearl, and then they filmed a prequel while they were filming this one called Pearl. So it's in post-production right now. It should be coming out soon. So I was like, I'm interested to see how she became a murderer. Like, it's like, I was very interested in the Pearl character, because you can even see in the pictures why she was so attached to Maxine, because they look similar. Like, she could see herself. But I will say the thing that really got me at the end, which I probably should have caught, but I didn't, was when you find out that the person that they've been watching on TV is her father, and he was doing his whole sermon about her, and I was that's a nice like tie-in, and then it just reinforced what she was talking about when they were all sitting like in the room, and they were just like, you just live your life, you just have fun. Like, what's sex? Like, you understand what, like, it just filled more into that, because that's a lot of preachers' kids branch off like that because they've been so choked by like their father or their mother's like belief that they're like, I'm gonna go out and just explore and go wow, but it's not wow to me. I'm just following my bliss. So like I thoroughly enjoyed it. This film to me had layers and levels that I was just like, this is an interesting. It went kind of like I was like, they about to die, but it was still a good film. Though. It was still a good film. But yeah, that's my initial.
Josh, let's hear
it. Same. I saw this opening night and I was glued to the screen the whole time. I was just like having a blast in the theater. I think obviously it's like an A24 slasher movie. It felt way more fast paced than most A24 movies that we're used to. So everyone shits on A24 because they're like, oh, it's all just like these super like deep allegories on grief. Everything's a metaphor for something. Like they're all just like slow burn this. And I'm like, oh no, this is just a straight up slasher with a bunch of nudity. Like it's super fun. It's just
very simple.
Throwback. But with complexities to it and layers, like Lau was saying, that I think that bring it elevate. I hate that word again, but it does make it better than just like some shitty low budget slasher that could have attempted the same thing. Like Ty West definitely has an eye for certain shots and just certain character arcs and just ways of bringing things about. There's like the whole debate on Twitter recently about nudity or sex in movies where they're like, oh, it's just unnecessary. And I'm like, not always, but even if it's not unnecessary, like
we're naked by birth. Why is that unnecessary?
Yeah, sometimes I want to see that. It's fine. Like it's not a big deal. And I think this one had like perfectly placed. Like that's obviously the whole plot. So they had to have nudity and sex scenes in it. But then it was like the visual gags with Kid Cudi and stuff were played so well, so funny. But yeah, it was like, this movie is funny. It had a couple of really solid jump scares, great gore. Overall, I was entertained the entire time, and it was so good.
I was not expecting a rag to be needed. I'm just going to put that out there. So, Brian, what is your take?
That was the most realistic part of this film.
It really was.
Yeah. You never see that in movies.
No.
Nope.
Brian, what do you got for us after that? Follow that, if you will.
So Justine and I are having this back and forth about her dungeon theater, but and I'm going to go back for this one.
You guys are gonna have to make TikToks about this thing.
Yeah. Because like I think I might be the odd man out on this one too, because I had kind of a hard time with this one. I one of the things I really did like about it though was like what they were speaking to about like sexuality and like how it tends to be like, oh, it's only for young people, you can only express that when you're young and whatnot. And like I loved that idea of like this this older couple were still kind of like had that going, and there are a lot of things I appreciated. It just didn't like, I don't know what it was. I can't really like, I saw this in the theater too, like opening weekend, and I was like really excited about it, just like from it being like what Josh had mentioned, like, oh no, it just looks like a straight up like old school kind of slasher, from A24. It's not like exactly what he said. Like I loved that they're going, like everyone thinks, oh no, it's going to be this, this cerebral headpiece that, that you're from A24, and they're like, nope, it's totally the opposite, going the other way. And but it wasn't without its metaphor, of course, because I think that's horror and film anyway, but it definitely wasn't like, an Ari Aster or David Eggers kind of thing. So but I still like, I don't know what it was. I'd have to like actually go back and like, I did make a TikTok about it. And it wasn't like that it was bad, because there's definitely a lot of elements that I liked about it. And I loved the whole, like it being like a throwback, to like Texas Chainsaw era. And like kind of what Lala mentioned too. I think that was kind of like a way plot wise they couldn't really set it in today. You know, if they want to have it be like this whole idea of having that like idea of talking about sexuality and this whole like other horror piece that had to be set during this specific kind of point in time in the history of like when, you know, sex was about to be kind of explode in more like a mainstream kind of way.
Right.
And I think that was a great approach to it. I think I do tend to have like some hard stuff around that, just like from like a personal level for me. And I think it is like just one of those things where, like I'd mentioned earlier, this may be another one I have to revisit and try to pick out those things again. But yeah, it just wasn't hidden for me for the like. I think this one might be the one I like the least out of the three. Oddly
Interesting.
enough. So, but yeah, I know.
Interesting.
Sorry, Justine.
I'm a
There's another
deliver
movie,
you.
right?
I'm gonna deliver you. I'm gonna deliver you to her dungeon because that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
I
I
like
got
it.
you, Justine. Don't
I
worry
like it.
about it. I got you.
So, speaking of the era, I really do think that if you're going to tell horror movie stories that don't involve modern technology, going to the 70s is a great way to avoid cell phones and the escape other than a vehicle. You don't even have great landlines. Even they had landlines, but they weren't as ubiquitous as they were in the 80s. And so that is perfect. It's definitely an homage to Texas Chainsaw. I think that's definitely part of the theme even. And the shot in the intro where it goes from that square 8mm shot, that classic shot, and then as they go through the
That was
doorway,
pretty cool.
I was
Yeah,
like,
like that.
oh, that was beautifully framed.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you go, oh, okay, I understand where we were outside watching a 70s film. Now we're in it. And I love those kinds of things where it pulls you in. There's a lot of that throughout the film. And I think even some of the shots of like the director getting stabbed with the pitchfork in the face was very Jason-esque. Getting stabbed in the foot gets me because I had a nail go through my foot several years ago. So I'm always like, oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Because I know what that feels like. And I'll be honest, I didn't know this, but I did not realize that was Brittany Snow, and I did not realize that was Kid Cudi, and then
That's hilarious.
they got all freaky deaky, and then I went, that's Brittany Snow, and that's Kid Cudi, and I went, now I feel a little embarrassed. Like I felt embarrassed for a moment because these are two people that you don't see nude in films, like at all. So that was shocking to me.
No, you see, Brittany has done some new stuff in more like indie like films.
But even in The
like,
Vicious Kind, she
more,
didn't like
yeah.
get naked.
Well, yeah, it was like she wanted like tits out and all that kind of stuff. Like,
right. But in this, she was just like, I'm a porn star, and I was like, oh, Brittany, okay.
Listen, she played the part, man. Shout out to Brittany Snow.
No, she nailed this part, and that is a pun that is intended.
Actually, shout out to Kid Cudi because all he had to do was like simulate sex with two women, make some jokes, and die. Like that's a good paycheck, man.
That fro, man, his
man.
fro really was an element that drew me in. I was just like, that's part of what I didn't recognize about him. I never seen Kid Cudi with a fro before. I've always seen him with his high and tight, and then he's got the little on top, but never the full fro.
Yeah.
And it really got me. I'm still shocked that I didn't recognize them. Mia Goth, I think this might have been my first experience with her, and I definitely think she's got chops. I'm trying to look through her list to see if there's anything else that I remember. Go ahead.
She's going places.
Definitely.
She's great.
She's done A24 before, it looks like.
She helped write this too. Like she's one of the writers.
Oh, I didn't even look at that. Now I'm gonna have to look at that.
So yeah, she's one of the writers. Yeah.
I mean, we agree, and that's why I kind of left only about a half hour for the show or for this movie, because there's not going to be too much we can parse out of it. It's not going to have that. I mean, there's some layers about sexuality without a doubt. There's layers about really who's the bad guy in the movie. Is it the preacher dad? There are a few layers, but they're not going to be Midsommar layers.
Oh, the old people is the worst. They're the bad people. Like nobody. Like, I'm sorry you got old, but you're not even allowing me to get old to feel your pain. Like, you're killing me, like, right now because you're mad. Like, because what did the guy say to Kid Cudi? Like, you'll never. Because I was looking at this the whole time. All these people, no matter if they're in pornography or whatever it is, they were all nice people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they might have their little things, but, like, Kid Cudi could have easily closed the door on that guy. He was like, once a Marine, always a Marine. Let me put on my skivvies. I'll
Yeah.
come help you. Brittany Snow is like looking for people. She sees the old woman. She puts the thing over. She's like, I can help you. Like my girl. Like everybody is just super nice, and these old people are like bitter and I get it. I do get it because it's probably not fun getting old, and it's not fun getting old losing the connection with somebody that you had a strong connection with at the beginning years of your life. Like the dude was like, oh, have I heard it? I have to say,
I mean, he
laughed.
wasn't wrong, you know.
No, but
Right.
he was, because he kept saying that he would have a heart attack having sex with her, and that's not what gave him a heart attack. Listen, I cracked up so hard when he was pulling that body in, and she went. He was like, oh, he just died. I was cracking up. I was like, at least he got some before he died, though. You know what I mean? Like,
That's fair. No, I
I
did
was like,
really
shout out
like.
to him.
I like when
Getting
Pearl
some.
tried to use the shotgun and her frail ass body couldn't handle it. I thought
I
that was one
love
of my
that.
favorite
Yeah,
parts.
that was. No, here's my thing with this too, Ray.
I knew that was
You
gonna happen too.
killed all these people, and you keep asking for help,
Right,
honey.
right.
You better be happy she didn't get the shotgun and just kill you right. Even though she ran over her face, that was a good scene. But you can't be like, oh, my help me.
No.
I think not.
I
think
will
not.
back over your face. Yeah, I agree with
Exactly.
you on that.
I think not. Like, what do you mean? I was just like,
Now,
I just thought it was funny.
there is one scene for me that sticks out kind of oddly, and that's this alligator scene that they decided to throw in there.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of odd. It feels disjointed. It feels they could have. I don't know. What do you, Josh? What do you got?
The first one or the second one? Like
Sure. Yes, both of them.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I liked it. I thought the first shot was great, and it was definitely foreshadowing where I was like, oh, okay, dope. They're letting us know that there are alligators nearby.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess
And I'm
that
guessing
is-
those
yeah.
alligators are probably going to fuck some shit up later.
Yeah.
So
Right.
looking forward to that. The second alligator scene, my only problem with it was really dark. Like you could barely make out what was actually happening. And I
Yeah.
don't know if that was them trying to hide like effects that just weren't as well invested in as
That's a good
other
point.
scenes in the movie. Because some of the gore in this movie was rock solid, and then this scene I was
Yeah.
like, I know what's happening, but I cannot tell what is happening. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't really take me out of it, but yeah, it did definitely feel like a tonal shift for a moment.
It-
The
maybe-
first scene with the
Yeah.
alligator actually was like one of the scenes where I was like, oh no, is she gonna get eaten? Like I was like, oh, is she? And then they were like, action, and she pulled up. I was like, oh, she didn't get bit enough.
You had to have one of those. That's a slasher moment. That's like a classic
Yeah, it
slasher.
is.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah. They gotta
classic. That's
like.
classic. My God, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
But it
Well, it
felt
was
like
good
maybe they were
because-
putting monster movie stuff in there too. It felt like a little bit of, you know.
That's and I think that's why it worked for me is because I don't watch horror trailers, and it was really hard for me to not watch this one again because I saw this in the theater, and I think the X trailer with the Fog Hat song is one of the best trailers I've seen in so long. Like the way they used the music was so good. And I was like, oh man, this trailer's got me so hyped for this movie. I cannot watch it again. I don't want to know anything about this movie going in. And so I saw the trailer once and I just avoided it for the remainder until I saw the movie in theaters. So I went in theaters knowing it's about people shooting a porno and something happens to them. Like I didn't know
Right.
I didn't know if it was an alligator movie. I didn't know if it was a slasher movie. I didn't know if it was aliens. I just knew shit hits the fan
honestly,
at some point.
I knew nothing about this movie. Like I've never seen a trailer because if I do see trailers, it's usually in theaters, and I didn't see a trailer for this. I didn't think to go look for a trailer. It's YouTube everywhere, so I could have found this trailer anywhere. But I went into this movie not knowing anything, and I was just like, I was very like newborn babyish when I came to this movie, and I was like, this is interesting. This is an interesting like movie for the time. Like I like, for me the gore and everything was great because I love practical effects. I love that type of thing. But for me, I love the conversation in this film. I love that they were talking about this being open sexually and like not judging people. And so the girl was like, all right, well, like, let me get in on this. And then the boyfriend is like, what? And she's like, when do you become such a prude? So it's like, you can't on one side be like, it's cinema, it's movie, it's not real. And then when your girl want to do it, you like, no, it's real. And you know what I mean? I like those things. They were talking about it in the chat. I love that Brittany Snow's character was like, look at you, look out the window, like you done did something. And he's like, nah, not did something. And then she simulated an orgasm. Like, that's cute. We acting, baby. Like, and I told her, I was like, it was like an R-rated, like when Harry met Sally. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so So like I like those moments like throughout the film. And it just had a really good creep factor. Like Pearl just like
Mhm.
caressing her in the bed, like
Yeah,
because
that
she
was so
wanted
good.
she
yeah.
wanted love from
So
any
good.
angle she can get it. Like I don't know. That's why I'm excited to see this prequel to see like because I wonder like is she bi?
I think
Like even though
she
she fell in love with a guy, even though she fell in love with a
Yeah.
dude, like she loved the dude. I
I
wonder if she's
think she's
bi.
not bi. I think that she was laying next to Mia Goth's character in order to feel what she was feeling and almost sense what it was like to be her again. I remember when I would lay in bed after sex or doing these things, it just kind of felt like she was trying to be her more than be with her. That was my take.
Mm.
Well, she kept saying she was special,
Mhm.
and I will say I loved her dance by the body. She was killing it. It was very Joker like.
So I think that was her first kill in a while. I think she'd killed. We talked about this, my wife and I again, and at first I was like, "Is this her first kill?" And she was like, "No," and I'm like, "You're right, no." But her first one in a while because she was really, really enjoying that one.
Mm.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like because she hasn't had sex in so long, and she wants to feel like that rush you get from like sex and like that euphoria. I think killing gave her that. So I feel like
Mm.
her dance was like a celebration, but also kind of like a standing orgasm in a way. Like that's kind of how I looked at it. Like she was like, because she was just really into it. Like her eyes were like closed, and she was just like she was feeling it, and that's kind of how I looked. I think it was like dual of like a release and a satisfaction. So like in a way.
No, that makes sense. I like that.
Yeah. Definitely.
You guys got anything more?
I'm just ready for Pearl to come out so I can watch that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. I feel bad for anyone who didn't sit through the credits because
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
like you get a full-on trailer for the prequel already, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it was pretty good.
people
I
still,
didn't
I
know
still
it
see
was
people
like
leaving Marvel movies though.
yeah, like I totally thought it was just like a fun thing they did. I didn't think it was gonna be like an actual
That's what
Blind
I was
video.
like, oh, that was a cool little like
yeah, like
weird teaser that they decided to put
yeah,
together.
exactly.
And then I went home and Googled it and I was like, oh, getting that this year. All
That's
right.
crazy. I literally just
So
found
the
that out.
guy in the basement, was that just a random guy in the basement with his
That was the
dick out,
last porno
or?
crew that came through.
No, but I think, but the way the guy said it, he was like, "You're all the same, coming through, flaunting, enticing my wife." So I'm assuming that people call this guy up to like, they must have their house listed
Well,
somewhere.
yeah, no, it's a boarding house. So that's a boarding house that people do rent
So
from them. But you got to consider they didn't say exactly what year, did they? They just kind of said it's the 70s. I don't remember if they said a
yeah, they said
specific
it's
year.
the 70s. Yeah.
So I mean, we're talking about just after the summer of love. We're talking about lots of marijuana everywhere. Like people are doing what they're doing and listening to, you know, Steve Miller Band or whatever, The Dead. Yeah, those are the people coming through there, staying on road trips. You
Yeah.
know, and they wouldn't like those kids, those damn kids.
Yeah. I feel like because I think that's what the whole Pearl. I read the synopsis for like Pearl is like it's gonna go back to when that place was like on a military base, like a boarding house on a military base, something like that. They said I can't remember, but it's like but they're gonna go with the boarding house type thing. So and then so obviously by the time we come back to the 70s and they're still doing like this whole boarding house thing, like I just wonder how many bodies are buried, like because
Not buried.
I'm pretty
They have
sure.
alligators.
Oh yeah, well
Yeah.
I wonder how many how many bodies is in the because that's why okay listen when she was swimming in the thing, and then you saw the alligator in the corner. I was like, that's why you just don't swim in waters you don't know about. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what's in the water, and that water is polluted with the blood of probably like billions of people because they feed the bodies to this alligator, which this alligator probably be like, they're my people. Like he probably
Yeah,
love
he probably
people.
doesn't mess with them because those. It's almost like Lake Placid. They're like
Man's like
they're
my
the Betty
parents.
White,
Like
right?
they feed me.
You know?
They feed me. So like, why would I hurt them? Because
Yeah.
they feed me. But I just wonder how many couples come in, like they don't go out obviously, but they come in and because she's living in this like jealousy feel, because there's no telling how long he cut off sex from her. You know what I mean? For her to get into this like,
Probably when he's
you
50,
know,
first mild heart attack.
that's sad.
I mean, they're
I don't
like
know.
at least 70s.
I'll probably risk a heart attack. I'm just saying. And she was just, I mean, on one aspect, I felt really bad for Pearl. Like I really do, because like I always say, like if you're gonna be with somebody where like you can be with them and the sex matters, but it's not the biggest thing. And for me, maybe sex was the biggest thing in their relationship. Because boy, oh boy, you go to killing people. Because she's with.
Right. So just enough has said some pretty odd things. I think that last one is the most odd I've seen her say so far. No bodies in my lake, all the movie things. I promise, she says. That said, we need to do a quick rating because we are at the end of this show. That went a lot faster than I thought it would. And it's always
Yeah,
fun
damn.
talking A24 horror or movies in general. So let's get a quick rating. Let's go numbers only, starting with Brian.
All right, this one, I have to give 6.5.
Okay.
But definitely willing to give it a rewatch for sure.
All right. Josh.
Say an 8.
I like that you did 8 like that.
I don't know if you guys. I had to switch headphones, and the headphones died. So it's like, is my mic still working? Just want to make sure.
It is.
Okay, cool. But every time I try to adjust, my hair gets all weird. But still an 8.
All
Like
right.
this one a lot. Yeah.
Lala.
7.
All right. So this is your second of the night. Okay. I'm gonna give this an 8 as well. I think this did a great job of paying homage back to the previous times and many of the other things we said. That said, this has been episode 30 of season 1 of The Real Study. Thank you to our guest, Josh Levesque, horror extraordinaire. Check him out on TikTok.
Thanks so much, Josh.
Check us all out on TikTok as well.
Buddy.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
and we can have another horror episode and get you back here to do more of this because this was fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's come back.
Awesome.
Would you do anything like else? Like, would you do like animations or comedies, or is it just mainly horror you want to?
On TikTok, it's pretty much horror niche. I found what works for me, and I just kind of stuck with it. But I love comedies. I watch all the Marvel movies, and I love.
No, I meant specifically to come back to the show. Like, I just don't want to have us like to wait for a horror movie for to be like, let's ask Josh to come back. Like, but if you watch everything, we can just like have you come back.
Yeah, no, come back. I'll come back and talk about anything. I watch movies. I watch a lot of movies.
This is the right place.
I'm not very. I've not watched a lot of anime. That's the only thing I probably can't speak to at all. But pretty much anything else, I'm into.
Nice. Well, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we do a little thing here because we're on Twitch. We raid, which is so fun, and we're gonna just raid somebody now. But so the show is, it's over. But we're still live, so it's sort of over. It's just like purgatory. It's a weird thing, but whatever. So we're going to raid a guy named Raven Armed. He's the only buddy online that I know right now that we can raid, and he's always fun and gives us a shout out, which is always good. So bear with me, y'all. All right, I think that's going to work. All right, so that's happening. But again, thank you for that. And if you like Marvel, you're definitely on the right page. 2 of the people on this panel have the name Marvel in their names. So I don't know if that tells you anything.
Kind of figured it out.
Right. And maybe you'll get to meet and talk with Mr. Marvelite next time. I'm hoping that'll be the case. That said,
just know I'm better than him. That's all. Just know
that. That said, you guys all have a great night.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.